As the monster approached, they began to panic and search for any new rays of hope that could give them a chance to escape. The moment had come when they had to become real heroes and prove their readiness to sacrifice. It is from this second that their fateful story begins, full of worries, pain, and hopes. You should have immediately called the Heroes Association to report what was happening and get help. One of the guys claimed that this girl was a healer and it must be another publicity stunt because she looked too pretty to work in a regular shop, especially if she actually had the status of an A-rank healer. Since he brought it up, it was unlikely that any of them had ever seen her in even one combat raid. In an uncertain 20-something year, humanity seemed to have changed its color, captured by the horror of the invasion of merciless monsters. Well, as they say, God gives only such tests that a person can withstand, or something close in meaning. Humanity finally realized the reality of what was happening, and then some people began to exhibit mysterious abilities reminiscent of an aura. The color of the aura reflected the level of their power, which became the basis for the standard classification among the ranks of these people. Such unique people capable of fighting monsters and protecting humanity began to be called heroes. At that moment, it was announced that the filming of the scene had come to an end. The guy said that she had too serious an expression on her face and asked if, being a mascot, she couldn't do at least one simple thing. Just smile, to which the girl promised that she would try again. After that, she quietly and sincerely apologized to him for her awkwardness. He added that she looked much more beautiful when she smiled and asked that from now on she always smile as befits a talisman. The girl increasingly realized that this was not the life she dreamed of when she wanted to become a hero. She dreamed about this from her earliest childhood, cherishing hope for a great destiny. One day, everything changed dramatically, as if fate itself had turned in the opposite direction. When she was in high school, she suddenly developed healing abilities. And when she was officially registered as an A-rank hero, she literally couldn't contain her emotions from happiness. However, soon she had to watch a terrible picture of a man slowly dying, bleeding out before her eyes. At that moment, the girl, not losing hope, tried to use a healing spell on him. But she did not take into account one extremely important and fatal moment that crossed everything out. By this time, all the other fighters around were already dead. One of the survivors shouted at her to hurry up and act faster. And just at that moment, a huge monster literally crushed him with its foot, leaving no chance for salvation. Her body was frozen with horror, she was paralyzed with fear and could not move. She became just a blogger because even her abilities did not manifest themselves, and her only advantage was her appearance, so she switched to regular filming. She hid from people because she was terrified that someone would notice her weakness and powerlessness. At some point, the girl accidentally hit something, losing her balance. There was a piece of paper with the word idiot written on it on the pole she approached, and she couldn't figure out if it was just a coincidence or if someone was deliberately making fun of her. At that moment, she heard strange and quiet sounds coming from somewhere nearby. When she turned around, she saw a frightened cat right in front of her. She began to ask him anxiously if he was hurt, because he didn't look like a homeless street animal at all. She couldn't understand what kind of terrible person could cause such harm to this defenseless creature. Looking closer, she noticed that the word stronger was written on his collar. It was at that moment that she looked up and saw a building with a bright sign that read Easy Fun Rocking Chair. Unexpectedly, this building caught her attention and aroused genuine interest. She went inside and, holding the cat in her arms, carefully asked if there was anyone there. At that moment, someone inside annoyedly shouted for the other to get off his ass, to which he tiredly replied that he couldn't do it anymore. The one who yelled at him said that if he didn't trust him, then he should be patient and not complain. He continued that the first time is always the hardest, but you have to be patient a little longer. What the girl saw confused her greatly. She did not expect such a picture at all. One of the guys exclaimed in surprise that they had a visitor and called another one to come take a look. At that moment, he turned around and looked closely at the girl who had entered. She quickly apologized and said that she seemed to have come to the wrong place, suggesting that they continue with their business. However, at that very moment, the guy called out to her and did not let her leave. He asked if this was the little girl who looked into his rocking chair and suggested not to be afraid but to come in more boldly. She couldn't figure out what this strange tiger-themed outfit was and was having a hard time explaining what she was doing there. The guy asked in confusion what she meant by the word cat, because he did not understand why she had made this emphasis. At that moment, he noticed a strange creature in front of him which appeared out of nowhere and looked straight at him. The guy couldn't understand whether this creature was someone else or a reflection of himself. The cat acted as if it was actually trying to answer him, expressing emotions with its gaze and behavior. He immediately shouted to Kevin to bring a large serving of protein chakbai for the new customer. The guy explained that he was simply following the instructions of his daughter, who strictly monitors his actions. The girl began to get lost in what was happening and could not understand what exactly was happening in this place. Malvan said her hands were shaking like noodles, offered her water, noticed weakness, fatigue, and expired food. He assured her that there was no need to worry because he would do everything to make it easy and comfortable for her. After that, he directly asked her opinion about everything that was happening and wanted to hear an honest answer. He asked her to raise her head and focus her inner strength by activating her own core. He pointed to her arched back, advising her to immediately straighten up and adopt the correct posture for safety. He ordered her to keep her arms straight, otherwise she could easily get hurt or injured. After a short time, he announced that it was time to take a minute break and catch his breath. He praised her, saying that there were only 2 approaches left, but he himself does not even listen to his family. Just at that moment, an urgent message came on her phone, interrupting all her thoughts and attention. A sharp and bright light burst out from the phone, filling the room with a strange glow and causing alarm. The girl looked at the phone screen in surprise, trying to understand what kind of message she had received. There was an emergency notice: cargo monster evacuation, blast radius 1 kilometer, heroes needed. Her hands began to tremble with horror and confusion, especially realizing that perhaps help could only come from her. Even if she decided to go, she did not have confidence in her strength and ability to cope. The guy asked if she needed the toilet and suggested that she go out, pointing out that it was to the left of the door. The girl tried to explain how serious the situation was, but she didn't know where to start her story. The guy didn't listen to her, turned around and calmly told her to just go to the toilet. But even if she had followed his advice, she still wouldn't have been able to just leave. He asked if she wanted to go out and suggested not to be afraid but to do exactly what she wanted. He added that she should not later regret her inaction at such an important moment. He said he just found a roll of toilet paper, like he knew it would come in handy. He noticed that she had been gone for too long and thought that perhaps she was in a great hurry. The guy realized that the toilet paper was out and assumed that was what forced her to leave. At that moment, the girl ran with all her might, not paying attention to fatigue or fear. It was at this moment that she ran to the scene of the incident, where real chaos and panic were already taking place. There were screams all around. People were asking for help, claiming that a monster had appeared here and that she was the only hero. The monster turned out to be a B-rank creature named Nonaman, real name Betty. His ability is a destructive superpower. The girl understood that she had to do everything possible. She shouted at people to run carefully and not to collide. She called for help while lying under the rubble and tried to stay conscious despite the pain and fear. She noticed these cries and realized that she could not remain indifferent for a second. It was at that moment that the monster almost destroyed her, delivering a crushing blow with incredible force. The girl realized that she was the only one who could help, and therefore she had to act immediately. She has to do this as quickly as possible because she is not just an observer but a hero. Let her finally move, because she is not here to pose for the camera lens. At that moment, someone shouted loudly at her to immediately run away from this dangerous place. Just at that moment, she managed to save a little girl, pulling her out of the affected area. The girl couldn't believe that she had actually managed to get going and start acting. After that, her legs gave way and she sank straight to the ground, not feeling tired. The monster, watching this, was clearly surprised by her sudden determination and speed of reaction. The girl turned to the rescued woman and asked if she was okay and could move on her own. Just at that moment, the monster swung his weapon, furiously aiming at them with particular cruelty. When the blow was inevitable, the girl simply closed her eyes, not having time to react to the threat. But it was at this critical moment that the trainer from the gym appeared, standing between her and the monster. He instantly attacked the monster, not giving it a chance to strike again and protecting the girl and the child. After the impact, the monster was thrown very far. His body flew tens of meters and crashed into a concrete wall. The girl was incredibly glad that at this critical moment there was a real hero nearby who was able to protect her. It was then that she began to gradually realize who was standing in front of her, remembering the smallest details of his appearance. He loudly ordered everyone to pay attention to what was happening, as if anticipating something important and significant. He proudly announced that Alpha Metz, the strongest fighter and protector, had arrived, ready to join the battle. He jokingly reminded that he had said from the very beginning that the toilet was on the left, right behind the front door. The girl immediately shouted at him to be careful because the monster was still ahead. But since the guy was staring at her, he didn't notice the blow and received a fist right in the face. Almost immediately after the impact, he was thrown back and crashed into the wall of the rocking chair with a crash. However, he quickly pulled himself together, repeated the fall, pushed off the floor, and landed much more confidently. After that, he threw something sharply towards the monster, trying to distract him and seize the initiative. The boy grabbed several large stones from the floor, intending to use them as projectiles for an attack. He began to literally throw these stones at the monster, demonstrating incredible accuracy, strength, and fighting spirit. The monster opened its mouth and with a terrifying roar flew straight towards its opponent. It was at this moment that the monster furiously attacked the guy, leaving no chance for respite. The guy instinctively pulled himself together and began to defend himself furiously, trying to prevent the monster from delivering a fatal blow. The girl began to understand that she did not see an aura around him. Was he really an ordinary person without abilities? She was haunted by the question of why he acted so recklessly, not fearing to die in a single fight. She clearly realized that he needed to leave immediately, otherwise he would soon simply die. The girl did not understand whether it was possible that he did not feel fear at all or simply did not think about the consequences. Meanwhile, the guy continued to defend himself from the monster's attacks, not allowing it to get closer and strike again. Suddenly, he began to smile, as if what was happening gave him genuine pleasure and fighting spirit. He asked the monster if this was really all he could do in a fight with him. The girl could not understand if he had some kind of secret weapon or hidden ability. The boy screamed that the monster would never be able to defeat him no matter what powers he had. The girl became interested in why he was so confident in himself and in his advantage over this monster. He continued to shout that there was an A-rank healer hero next to him who could change the outcome of the battle. Only then did she realize that he was talking specifically about her, and this surprised her greatly. She couldn't believe he'd set her up like that, hoping she'd fight. The guy tried to pull her towards him at the decisive moment, counting on her support and intervention. The girl thought that all this time she had actually been his secret weapon. This thought frightened her so much that she immediately internally rejected such an assumption. The guy tried to understand what exactly was happening now and why she wasn't reacting to the situation. Just at that moment, the monster delivered a powerful blow from behind, hitting the guy from an unexpected direction. The girl began to mentally apologize to him because she felt that she was to blame for his difficult situation. The guy was thrown very far and crashed into the ground with force, unable to stay on his feet. She realized that due to her inaction he could die because there was no one else to join the fight. Now he really felt very bad. He could barely stand on his feet and was breathing heavily. The girl immediately began to use healing, hoping that this time her power would not fail. Meanwhile, the monster continued to attack the guy, striking one after another with frightening accuracy. The girl desperately asked for the spell to work at least once and save his life. Just at that moment, the monster struck the guy again, increasing the pressure on him. The girl was breathing heavily, her body was shaking. She didn't know if any of her magic would work. The monster paused for a moment and looked closely at his opponent, assessing his condition. The guy was lying on the ground and not moving, as if he had lost consciousness or his strength had completely left him. The monster slowly began to approach him, preparing to deliver the final crushing and fatal blow. The girl, as always, began to blame herself for everything that was happening and feel guilty for his suffering. Suddenly, someone turned to the lying guy, breaking the silence and interrupting the gloomy atmosphere of the moment. It turned out to be a young man who said that what was happening had hurt his pride and self-esteem. He asked if he had already given up, since the owner of the gym had no right. The monster became enraged after receiving the blow and prepared for a new, more brutal attack. He grabbed the boy again and threw him hard to the ground, not giving him time to rest. The guy began to rise to his feet with difficulty, clenching his teeth from pain and fatigue. He admitted that the wound turned out to be much more painful than he initially expected. At the same time, he did not blame the girl for what happened, realizing that he bore full responsibility. He advised her to stop crying and focus on the fight to help both of them. She was confused, not understanding why the hero was comforting her, and not the other way around, since she was the hero. The monster swung again, preparing to deliver another devastating blow at this dangerous moment. The girl desperately prayed that at least once her healing power would work without fail. It was at this very moment that something inexplicable and sudden for everyone around began to happen. A bright flash erupted in the air, blinding everyone present and causing them to freeze. This was followed by a powerful explosion that echoed throughout the entire battle area. The monster could not understand what exactly caused such an inexplicable phenomenon and was clearly confused. He tried to find out when exactly this would happen again, but he received no answer from those around him. Meanwhile, the girl really began to perform healing magic, filling the fighters with strength. The guy called her a real hero with a smile, noting her sudden progress and strength. He asked her to kill the monsters with him, admiring the beauty and determination that had awakened within her. The monster at this moment was very surprised by what was happening, not understanding how this could be possible. The guy continued to smile broadly, showing confidence in the upcoming victory and his own strength. He said that what was happening was just incredibly cool and worth fighting for further. The monster looked tired and exhausted, retreating further and further under the onslaught of his opponents at this point. After this, the guy forcefully lifted some heavy metal pole off the ground, preparing for battle. He said that now someone faces a very difficult task and the decisive moment of the struggle is coming. The monster screamed loudly and furiously, trying to scare away his rivals with his terrifying roar and anger. The guy quickly bent down and prepared for the next maneuver, expecting to deliver a lightning-fast blow. He then attacked the monster with unexpected strength and speed, forcing it to retreat back. At that moment, the metal pole he was holding began to crack and crumble under the pressure of the fight. After that, it shattered into several large pieces, creating chaos and disorientation in the enemy ranks. Despite this, his actions had an effect, and the monster flew far away from the collision site. The monster couldn't understand why this weapon seemed so weak and didn't do much damage. At that moment, the guy shouted loudly to Malvin, calling him for a new attack and support in the battle. However, he replied that it was just the delivery of nuclear weapons and the situation was under control. The guy grabbed something in his hands, preparing to use another item to strengthen his attack. He caught a familiar scent and couldn't believe that it was what he thought it was: Changshendong with traditions. The girl couldn't understand what exactly he was holding. Perhaps they were pork ribs to restore strength. At that moment, the guy took a big bite and felt the protein begin to penetrate every cell in his body. He said that here it is, the power that penetrates the vessels and fills his body with vital energy. The guy had already come to his senses and began to feel a surge of strength, preparing for new challenges and attacks. He instantly became enraged and headed straight for the monster, wanting to end the fight as quickly as possible. The guy attacked the monster with incredible speed and power, using all his accumulated strength and skills. At that moment, he looked at the guy and noticed his smile full of confidence and determination. The guy said that even dogs deserve rest while eating and that the monster should rest too. He added that he wanted to try it himself, demonstrating the confidence and indomitable spirit of a fighter. The boy shouted to raise the protein and immediately hit the monster with a force that shocked everyone around. He used a protein hammer, delivering powerful blows that could pierce even the thickest armor. At the gate, he used a protein kick attack followed by a hammer strike, demonstrating a comprehensive approach. The monster also did not lag behind and attacked at this moment, trying to strike back and weaken the enemy. The guy received blows from the monster but continued to strike back, not giving the enemy a break. He used alternating protein punches and leg extensions, demonstrating his mastery of martial techniques. He also used a casein complex set, enhancing his abilities and striking the monster with power and precision. The guy continued to deliver powerful blows, completely suppressing the monster and not giving it a chance to attack back. The monster at that moment desperately attacked the guy, trying to deal a fatal blow and turn the tide of the battle. The girl used healing again, directing all her power to restoring the fighter's health in a critical situation. It really helped the guy at the most important moment, when his strength was almost completely leaving his body. He rose into the air, preparing to deliver a crushing blow to the monster from above and take advantage. The boy screamed loudly, preparing to attack with maximum force and determination at that crucial moment. The monster began to feel fear, feeling for the first time in a long time that the situation was getting out of his control. At the most decisive moment, the guy quickly attacked the monster, trying to deliver the final fatal blow. The girl watched what was happening with hope and excitement, praying for the success of her comrade in battle. The monster, as if surprised, suddenly retreated and ran, trying to avoid a dangerous fight with the heroes. Their story is just beginning, opening the way for them to incredible adventures and great achievements. She said this with confidence, as if she knew in advance that only trials and victories lay ahead. The girl had a strange premonition that did not leave her even in the most tense moments. She smiled and said that such trials do not happen in difficult times like now. This time the girl realized that something in the world around her had changed and now everything would be different than before. With blood on her finger, she made a mark on the paper confirming her participation and readiness for the tests. She looked at the guy in surprise, trying to understand what exactly caused him to smile so strangely. At that moment he smiled very strangely, as if he knew something important that she did not yet understand. He told his friend that there was a new addition to their family which made everyone happy and worried at the same time. The girl still could not understand what was happening and why everything was developing in this particular way. An ominous premonition was coming over her, making her heart beat faster and filling her mind with anxiety. The guy shouted at the girl, demanding that she stop fooling around and get up quickly, so as not to embarrass herself in front of everyone. She didn't understand what was going on here and why she was being forced to participate in such strange things. The guy congratulated her on the fact that she had now become a member of the Easy Fun Rocking Club. He talked about unlimited personal training for $100 a month and a great deal for a year. Now the girl was on her way to becoming the healthiest and strongest person on the entire planet. At the most crucial moment, the barbell suddenly fell to the floor with a loud sound, attracting the attention of everyone present. The guy said that it was okay, you just need to pull yourself together and lift the barbell again, showing discipline. The girl cried, realizing that she wanted to go home, although her desires were completely incompatible with reality. She was unable to concentrate and was unable to put full effort into the exercise, feeling weak and tired. Remembering her strength, she tried to find the resource within herself and gather her will for the next approach. That night she felt a huge surge of energy that she had never experienced before and was able to use her powers again. She couldn't figure out the reason, but she assumed it had something to do with the Horse King and the time they spent together. At that very moment someone approached her, disturbing her thoughts and attracting her attention. It was the same cat that brought her to this room and started a new stage in her life. The girl asked if he was comforting her and thanked him for his unexpected support in difficult times. At that moment, the girl felt a strong cold running through her entire body, as if warning of danger. The guy asked her not to give up, admitting that the first steps are always the most difficult and painful. She saw Kevin and thanked him for his help and support, which became important and valuable to her. Even if it was hard now, she knew that the muscles that were forming now would become her strength in the future. The girl laughed and agreed that this is exactly what happens when you really start working on yourself. She told the guy that he dropped something and it was supposed to remain a secret between them. He admitted that he worked part-time as an actor and the girl asked permission to watch his films and performances. The guy replied that of course she could watch and would even be happy to share interesting moments. The antagonist, although minor, must have been disappointed that he was not the main character of the story. However, he said he is not disappointed because playing a villain allows him to shine and influence the audience. He noted that the main characters always need a villain who makes their story more vivid and memorable. The role of a villain was exactly what he liked and enjoyed on stage and in life. The girl was very surprised to hear such words because for her it was an unexpected confession. He looked amazing and had a strong psyche. A man who did not care about the opinions of others. Later, it will be necessary to take important information from him for further actions and plans for the future. At that very moment, she definitely paid attention to what was happening around her and thought more deeply. The guy began to squat, slowly concentrating on the exercise and trying to maintain the correct technique of movement. She couldn't understand if Kevin was completely okay after all that tense situation and fight. The girl began to speak out loud to the horse Namu King that he would soon be completely crushed in battle. He started shouting that this man was an idiot and had no right to behave like that towards others. He called him a worthless piece of shit, and that insult seemed too strong even for a piece of shit. At that moment, the girl kept saying that he would soon be overwhelmed by a wave of anger and retribution. But gradually she began to realize the full depth of what was happening and the meaning of the words that were spoken. He continued to say that he subscribed to every word and did not understand why he was paying rent at this place. Let him look at his fucking elbows and ask himself why they're not straight and why he's so weak. Deluxe and buildings are just a demo, he said, getting ready to leave the gym and leave everything behind. Kevin said that just a little bit remained, a little more effort, and everything would definitely work out. and it was at this moment that he finally managed to perform the exercise correctly and without errors. He asked for more insults, believing that this would help him better focus and achieve results. He said he would work with her until she had bloody diarrhea from overexertion. The guy looked proud and relaxed, showing that he was pleased with his progress and confident in his abilities. Let him concentrate his strength a little in his core, hold his breath, and exhale all the fatigue and weakness. The girl realized that this was a call not to try to correct the mistakes of the past, but to move forward without looking back. Should they start training already, or should they prepare a little more, she asked herself. The girl said that such training is only suitable for real heroes with a certain level of skills. She asked if he would be okay because it could be dangerous, didn't he tell her? This guy turned out to be a B-rank hero, which caused her a certain surprise and respect at the same time. The girl was quite surprised when she found out the truth about the guy and what he was actually capable of. Summoning heroes of rank A to C to restore the city at this moment turned out to be extremely important and necessary. At that moment they fought desperately, sparing no effort and risking their lives to save everyone. Some of them helped defend the city, creating defenses and supporting their comrades in battle. The guy said that maybe Kavunu needs to get going and join the fight as soon as possible. This guy was surprised, not believing his eyes and not expecting to see her among the heroes. He said that she was a healer girl and expressed doubt about her fighting ability in such conditions. He saw her videos on TikTok and was amazed by the way she behaves and what she can do. It was indeed a girl, and it was strange considering her quiet and gentle image. He said she was amazing and would gladly give her attention on Instagram, but she apologized and declined. He took her hand and said that it was enough to lie because a healer girl should not be afraid to carry out such tasks. She didn't want to, but she agreed to at least show herself a little, and he promised to treat her to dinner for it. At that moment someone shouted loudly, "Malaton!" attracting the attention of everyone around. Marina started talking, and everyone's thoughts turned to Sunbae and his unusual working methods. The whole situation changed abruptly, and there was silence all around, as if everyone was expecting something important. He asked if he could treat Malaton and offered to take some chalkball with him. The girl watched the behavior of those around her with slight surprise and could not understand the reason for such a reaction. The guy couldn't stand it and began to actively attack, demonstrating his determination and strength. He said that, in order to win, the support of Malaton is essential, without which it will be difficult to cope. He admitted that he was the same bastard that was the subject of rumors and stories in their area. 3 years ago, in winter, events occurred that still remained a mystery to many. Someone said that these little bastards annoyed him and caused him great irritation. He couldn't stand it when they wet themselves and cried to their parents, so he promised to punish their mothers. At that moment someone turned to them with a remark, interrupting the tense conversation. The guy reminded them that smoking was prohibited in this place and asked them to put out their cigarettes. One of them asked what he needed and stated that winter was not the best time for conflicts and quarrels. At this point someone asked her why she had such a disrespectful attitude towards an adult. The guy started apologizing and said that they didn't know that smoking was prohibited here, it was a mistake. He didn't know that smoking kills a lot of sperm and asked to give him the remaining cigarettes. At that moment something unexpected happened and everyone froze, trying to understand what had happened. He asked that this place now become an official smoking area where no one would interfere. After this he spat in the direction of the other, demonstrating his disdain and defiance. He asked what happened, is it possible to smoke here now, or is he deaf and can't hear? Let him look at this idiot who doesn't understand what he's doing and thinks he can cry like an adult. Maybe the tears are flowing, or maybe the tears are just hiding the true feelings and pain inside his face. After some time the whole conflict finally ended and everyone gradually began to disperse to their own affairs. Naturally the guy won the argument and proved that his opinion was more significant and correct. One of them was crying, his nose was running, he couldn't cope with his emotions at that moment. The coach simply watched what was happening without interfering and assessing the situation from the outside. He asked if it was the same senior student and was glad to see him again, asking if he had quit smoking. If the guy was still furious at whoever was talking to him, it was obvious from his expression. He called him a fucking bastard and said he was still as stupid as he was before. Since the boy became more mature and experienced, much in his behavior has changed, but not everything. At that moment a fire began to appear which quickly spread around and caused fear in everyone. The guy started saying that the fire was caused by cigarettes that someone had carelessly thrown away. The girl told the coach that the man seemed to have awakened and displayed unusual abilities. The guy said that he was not the same as before, but he was still a bastard who should get the punishment he deserved. He said that he would now be in this guy's head like the scary and persistent Tan. Tan is not just a name, it is a symbol of strength and determination that makes enemies fear. The blow was so strong that the guy rose into the air and could not immediately come to his senses. He then landed but was badly injured. His things fell out of his hands and he lost his balance. The guy did not expect such a sharp turn of events and was stunned by what was happening. The trainer said he thought he could hurt someone who had spent years sculpting muscles, but it turned out to be more difficult. Someone heard the noise and approached them to find out what exactly was going on in that place. The girl asked if it was their appa from the light and cheerful rocking chair, whom they had not seen for a long time. She was surprised and wondered if it was fate that the King of Heart, a rank a hero, appeared here. They haven't seen each other for a long time. He is glad to see her, but asked her to get out of the way because there are important things to do here now. She began to hug him and say that such a soft sensation rarely brings her such joy and warmth. It couldn't be the Horse King, she thought, not believing her eyes. At that moment something was happening to him, as if he was becoming stronger and more confident with every second. Let them look at those beautiful shoulders and veins that look so delicious and attractive. The coach started running away and asking for help, begging to stop what was happening, but the girl said that he had to stop. He said he didn't need it and asked them to leave him alone, claiming that he didn't need help. Let him not run away, he will be fine just like last time, the girl assured her. The girl began to understand that there was something more going on here than just a training session or a chance meeting. She asked the guy if he was okay and was worried about his condition after the fight. He immediately told her to get out of the way because now he needed to focus on what was important. He began to address the Harry account, saying that he would not forgive him for what had happened. The light cheerful gym is where he often trains. Let him wait a little, the boy said. He promised to burn everything if he did not back down and stop his actions. She told him to wait and tried to convince him that such an act would lead to irreparable consequences. She asked what he meant by burn everything because she couldn't let him destroy everything around him. Isn't he ashamed to use cowardly methods because he has no real strength or courage? He told her to shut up and asked who she thought she was to keep yapping like that. She started talking about the superhuman law, Article 23, Section 6, which prohibits the use of abilities on civilians. He had already used his ability on a civilian, the Horse King, and knew how severe the crime was. If he dares to make any more noise, she herself will stand up for the law and call the heroes. He rudely said that she was a bitch with looks but absolutely powerless and could not do anything. At that very moment, the girl began to fall backwards, completely losing consciousness and control over her body. She opened her eyes sharply and tried to comprehend what was happening around her at this critical moment. There was something wrong with the guy because he was in a strange liquid that was enveloping his entire body. The girl could not understand what this liquid was and why she found herself in such an unusual situation. Some mysterious being asked who it was and mentioned a man named Tanhilu whom it knew. His hands were shaking and he felt very dizzy and his body was getting weaker with each passing second. The creature began to demand that Tankalu be given to him immediately and asked where he was now. The girl still could not understand what was happening and why these strange events were unfolding right now. She didn't understand why the monsters appeared at that particular moment and what kind of threat they posed. The creature warned that it was about to lose consciousness and demanded that Tankhula be given to it immediately to save it. At that moment, the girl activated a protective barrier to protect herself and those around her from the dangerous threat. The monster was very surprised by the sudden defense and stopped for a moment, trying to comprehend what was happening. The girl herself could not explain what this feeling was and how she managed to create such a powerful barrier. The second girl came up and told her to step aside as she was only interfering with the action. At this moment, the monsters found themselves locked in a special cage from which they tried with all their might to escape. The monsters made great efforts, but it was impossible to escape from the cage and their attempts were unsuccessful. Despite all their efforts, the monsters could not break through and gradually their hopes began to fade. The monsters had no hope of salvation and surrendered, seeing no way out of the situation. The girl turned her attention to her savior, who was closely watching what was happening next to them. She asked if the savior was the S-Rank hero named Yura and what that meant. At this point someone thought and began to consider how best to act in such a difficult situation. He began to crawl out of the cage, showing determination and a desire to break free as soon as possible. The girl screamed that this couldn't be, not believing her own eyes and what was happening. He asked if she was also a sweetie, to which the girl replied that it was very bad. He was sticky and disgusting, and his appearance caused fear and disgust in everyone around him. It was horrible, and the girl hoped it would just fall off and not hurt anyone else. At that moment he looked at her in surprise, not understanding why she was reacting to him like that. The girl suddenly attacked him, not giving him even a chance to defend or counterattack. She couldn't understand what was going on around her, and why everything was turning out so strangely. She said she looked familiar and asked who she really was and where she came from. The girl replied that she had already seen her in the Hero Association and that she was a healer girl by the nickname. She asked Ilian what this meant and how serious the situation was with this healer girl. At that moment the King of Hearts appeared in front of her, who seemed to be a very strong and important character. After this the girl screamed, calling for help, realizing the danger and seriousness of the situation. She admitted that she could not do anything without his support and asked him not to thank her. The girl began to calm the Horse King, telling him not to cry or worry. She assured him that she was always there and that he had nothing to worry about because everything would definitely be fine. At that moment the girl looked very sadly at everyone around her, feeling the heaviness of the moment. He was so scared that he barely managed to escape from her, saving his own life at the last moment. Then at that moment he saw a familiar face which gave him a feeling of relief and calm. He immediately recognized Urair and felt confident thanks to his support and presence nearby. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, and the girl was surprised why she didn't come to the gym anymore. At that very moment she attacked him, showing strength and determination in the fight for her life. She said that he behaves disgustingly and has no respect for the people and heroes around him. The girl asked if they knew each other and asked him to explain their history and the connection between them. At that moment the monster suddenly attacked her from behind very sharply and aggressively, not giving her a chance. But at the most necessary moment the guy came to the rescue in time and saved her from imminent danger. The girl looked at the Horse King in surprise, amazed by his appearance and decisive actions. He said it was very dangerous and asked if she was okay after all the horror that had happened. He smiled and said that he was always happy to help and support in any difficult situation. The girl said they were just worthless pieces of shit who deserved no respect or attention. She added that he should stop acting innocent and look at himself realistically without illusions. At this point the coach paid close attention to what was happening, assessing the situation and possible risks. The girl stated that they had a princess stuck there who desperately needed rescue and help now. At this time the monster raged with all its might, destroying everything around and attacking opponents mercilessly. He continued to furiously attack everyone around him, sowing chaos and fear in the hearts of his enemies. At some point someone ordered him to stop attacking and stop harming everyone around him. The girl said that he didn't belong there and advised him to finally back off and leave them alone. At this moment something strange began to happen that surprised and alarmed all the people present. The girl thought it was amazing that a C-rank hero was capable of such powerful and unexpected actions. She immediately used her abilities to try to neutralize the threat and save those around her. The monster screamed from the unbearable pain caused by the powerful blows and spells of his opponents in battle. At that moment he seemed to freeze, completely losing the ability to move and adequately respond to a threat. The monster said that it was very difficult for him to endure such blows and continue to fight the attackers. The coach praised her for her excellent work and correct choice of actions during a difficult fight. Yura asked her whether she was going to continue to laze around or take an active part. He thanked her and assured her that he was always ready to help in any difficult situation and support her. She said that this is far from all, many new challenges and tasks await them ahead. He said that the eyes are the mirror of the soul, and now he is ready to show all his strength and determination. The guy shouted that the gun was loaded and he was ready to deal a powerful and decisive blow to the enemy now. At that moment he headed straight for the monster's mouth, determined to deliver the fatal blow. The coach quickly came over to help and support in this important and dangerous fight with the enemy. At that very moment, the monster opened its mouth wide, preparing to deliver a crushing and powerful blow. The coach was fully focused and controlled the actions in order to counter the enemy as effectively as possible. At that moment, the monster extended its hand, trying to strike back or block the enemy's attack. The monster was greatly surprised by the sudden turn of events and the onslaught of furious and determined opponents. The guy continued to approach the monster without stopping and demonstrating an iron will to win. At that moment, the trainer punched the monster with his hand, dealing a strong blow and weakening the enemy significantly. There was a powerful explosion that stunned everyone and radically changed the course of the battle in favor of the heroes. The trainer flew through the explosion and landed safely, preparing for the next stage of the difficult battle. The girl looked at what was happening below in surprise, not believing her eyes and what was happening around her. Yura also watched the battles with excitement and tension, awaiting the outcome of events and the results of the battle. The coach landed safely on the ground, demonstrating strength and endurance without losing confidence. He said that there would be no more room for obesity and weakness in their ranks, only strength and discipline. At this point, he used his power to strengthen the team and prepare them for further trials. The girl just noticed this aura and was amazed and inspired by what was happening around her. She believed that such a thing was impossible and that it would completely change the course of further events and struggle. Put down the Horse King, for he has no powers that can harm or defeat her. The coach asked Ji-hyun if she was hungry and suggested that they go out to eat together as a team. Yura couldn't understand what this meant and why the coach was showing such concern for all of them. The girl agreed to the proposal, realizing that it was really important for maintaining strength and health. He was amazing because at first he seemed weak, but then he showed strength like a real boar. The girl asked him to stop posing and focus on training and completing important tasks. At that moment, the girl was left alone, realizing the full gravity and complexity of the situation that surrounded them. Then they all went off together somewhere to continue their business and prepare for the next fight. It was Pig's feet again, which looked strange and caused mixed feelings and doubts. The coach told her to shut up and stop insulting him because protein was an important element of his diet. He added that for him meat is a choice and she should stop complaining and just eat. But since she asks so sweetly, why should he be crazy and the king so sensitive? Now Ji-hyun also has to say ah to express her surprise and emotions. Yura couldn't understand whether he was serious or just joking in this situation. I already said that she is fine and not as hungry as she seems. But at that moment, the sounds of her stomach indicated that she was still hungry. He told her not to be shy and to eat calmly because it would only do her good. Muin asked what happened and if there was something she didn't like or if she should shut up. The girl admitted that she suffers from anorexia and will never be able to talk about it openly. The trainer explained that extreme dieting is prohibited and that one must eat well after training. Now a little bit, 3 sets of 10 repetitions of the jaw exercise to strengthen the muscles. He slammed the table down hard to get everyone's attention and focus on the exercise. The girl immediately began to eat, feeling hungry and realizing the importance of nutrition for health. She realized that the food was really tasty and she really liked this unexpected taste. It seemed as if a couple of pigs were dancing, so passionately and energetically did she perceive the taste. The girl said it was amazing and those around her asked what exactly she said. She repeated that the food was very tasty and the coach was happy with her good mood. Yura thought that she might lose but still hoped for a better outcome. The trainer said that protein is the best source of energy and he really likes pork legs. The guy was silent at that moment, not interfering and watching what was happening with interest. The light, cheerful rocking chair was filled with the sounds of training and the efforts that everyone was putting in. The girl was doing the exercises, fully concentrating on the training and the correct technique of movements. Then she lowered the barbell and exhaled heavily, feeling tired and satisfied with the result. She thought about many things, reflecting on her progress and motivation for further training. She seemed to have changed completely. Now she eats right and doesn't feel depressed. It's probably all thanks to the exercises that her trainer, the Horse King, gave her. At that moment, someone extended a hand from behind, drawing her attention to an important event. She saw some kind of box in front of her and felt a slight fear jumping back. The girl was very scared and took a step back, not understanding what kind of object it was. She began to ask who this man was and why he appeared here suddenly and unexpectedly. The man asked her to stop her brother, explaining that he could harm someone. Due to the early loss of his parents, her brother tried to fill the void in his soul through success. He earned money money and even saved it to send his sister to study abroad. With her brother's help, she was able to graduate from college and returned to Korea recently a few days ago. She decided to find out where her brother was going and began to follow him to understand everything better. She no longer needed to hide because now she saw everything with her own eyes. She watched with her brother, carefully following what was happening around and analyzing the situation. She was looking at him at the very moment when something strange and inexplicable was happening. The cult leader wore underwear with a tiger pattern on his face, causing a sense of alarm in everyone. She was sure that her brother had succumbed to the cult leader's brainwashing and manipulation. The girl could not understand whether she was talking to the Horse King or trying to explain something to him. She stated that this place was intended for training and did not understand what was happening around. At that moment, she noticed a strange sound coming from afar and causing fear. Someone said that they were dead, and this caused panic and confusion among everyone present. Others wished them to go to hell, showing hatred and a desire for revenge to the end. The girl ran up to them and demanded that they stop immediately and stop the violence. She saw strange people in masks, which further increased her fear and anxiety. She couldn't understand what exactly was going on and why these people came here looking like that. One of them extended his hand and said that the time had come to take an important and decisive action. She wished for this creature to go to hell if it brought danger and evil. At this moment, someone suddenly appeared and caused even more questions and surprise. The girl couldn't understand what it was and what the intentions of the new character in the scene were. Inside the room, there was only a large pool of blood, which took a long time to dry due to the dampness. After this incident, the girl completely lost consciousness due to severe shock and fatigue. She couldn't understand who these people were, where they came from, or what their intentions were. She suggested following them to find out their true goals and plans. She wasn't sure because of their makeup, but she assumed one of them was her brother. The girl asked that someone take a close look at their actions and behavior. At that moment, they approached the old woman, who looked defenseless and frightened. One of them ordered the old woman to give him something valuable, threatening violence. The girl began to scream loudly, warning her grandmother to be careful and not give in. At that moment, the grandmother turned her head back and saw the approaching danger. But as it turned out, at that moment, no one helped her cross the road safely. The girl couldn't understand what was wrong with these guys and why they were behaving like this. They told Grandma to go to hell, showing extreme cruelty and malice. The girl knew that something terrible and dangerous for everyone around was happening here. She realized that these people were starting their villainous deeds again despite the prohibitions. It was at this moment that the soccer ball got stuck high in the branches of a large tree. The little boy was crying and could not reach the ball, feeling confused and helpless. At that moment, someone suddenly appeared behind him, ready to help the child. The boy didn't have time to react in any way and didn't even notice the approaching people. The girl told one of them to stop so as not to harm the baby. At that moment, the man suddenly hit the tree, trying to knock the ball down. Just at that moment, the ball fell from the tree straight towards the little boy. He said it was a soccer ball guild, and now the guy is next in line. The girl didn't understand what these guys were doing at all and why they were stalking others. She wondered whether she should continue to pursue these suspicious and dangerous people. At this point, night had already fallen and darkness had enveloped the entire area around. There were a lot of people there with their faces hidden, which made everyone present wary. The girl came closer to them, trying to make out their faces and understand the situation better. They all gathered in this area, paid money, and it was a real cult organization. At that moment, someone told someone that he must die, showing cruelty and hatred. The girl blushed and told one of them to go to hell without any pity. Then she just walked past, but when they wanted to go inside, she hit her head. The man didn't even know what to answer to her sudden and abrupt appearance. The girl said that it was a perfect plan and that she should come here without any doubts. At that moment, the doors began to open and everyone present froze in anticipation. Inside, there were a lot of similar people with serious and wary faces. There was music playing, creating a tense and unsettling atmosphere in the room. At that moment, one of them looked attentively at everyone present in the hall. He said that the doors to hell were open and no one would be able to get out alive. But the girl immediately recognized that voice. It was her brother who controlled everything. At this point, strange events began to occur related to the network and communication. They began to ask if the brothers were ready for the upcoming test and fight. At that moment, one of them prepared to remove his mask, revealing his face. He took off his mask and everyone present could see his true face and emotions. The coach said that all these people are going to hell for their evil deeds and crimes. The girl could not understand whether it was the Horse King or someone else in this role. At that moment, everyone present supported and encouraged him with their attention and strength. These were guys from a light, cheerful gym who always helped each other in difficulties. The girl couldn't believe that they were all together like one close-knit team. So the Horse King was indeed the leader of this cult and controlled them. The King of Hell demanded that sacrifices be made to him as a sign of loyalty and the strength of his power. He ordered his servants to offer him suitable sacrifices to strengthen his power. The girl could not understand whether the sacrifice was really taking place or whether it was a game. It was as if they were making a sacrifice with their own hands without hesitation or fear. She noticed the blood in front of her and wondered what exactly they were going to do to these people. The girl could not understand what kind of scene it was and why the blood was so visible. There was a large pool of blood on the ground which looked creepy and scary to her. He told the brothers to rejoice because this was the fulfillment of their cherished desires. This is exactly what they wanted and what they asked for a long time despite the horror. Many of them focused on the ideal balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. The girl still couldn't understand what was going on here and why all this was happening. Now they replenished everything necessary for muscle growth and continued their training. They shouted loudly, "Mega lift, mega pull," and motivated each other to succeed. She thought to herself what was going on here and why everything looked so strange. At that moment, some pieces of paper started flying in the air as if it were a holiday. It turned out to be a charity concert that brought together many people for a good cause. The girl couldn't understand whether they really cared about people or whether it was a game. For some reason, good deeds seemed so strange and made her doubt and worry. The soldiers continued to keep the rhythm with them and repeated the movements on stage. The result was that they were able to perform without a single mistake or blunder. It was a huge relief for her because she was very worried about everyone. She was afraid that her brother had changed, but she realized that it was all a big misunderstanding. Despite his stern appearance, her brother continued to make people happy and help them. The girl was confused because everything that was happening contradicted her expectations, but she saw that the whole group was truly happy and joyful together. A-rank heroes and C-rank heroes had no meaning in this atmosphere of unity. The main thing was those who had the ability to give others happiness and hope. They were true heroes who deserved respect and recognition for their deeds. The girl reminded everyone of the true values and meaning of being a real hero. After that, they started shouting loudly and expressing their joy and support. The charity concert continued, creating an atmosphere of kindness and unity in the hall. All this took place in a small area where people gathered for good purposes. This place was located in South Korea in one of the quiet and cozy cities. At that moment, amazing and important events were taking place on planet Earth. The Earth was aimed at something important that could change the course of history. Some monster was smiling widely, watching what was happening with dark joy. An unidentified space object with unknown purposes was approaching the Earth directly. The burgers the participants ate contained organic ketchup and healthy ingredients. At that moment, they raised their shakers and said they would drink to the success of the concert. The concert was truly amazing and the audience reaction was particularly emotional. He said he especially remembers the ketchup moment, which caused laughter and fun. He screamed that his eyes hurt from so many impressions and emotions. He invited everyone to come closer and join in the fun and celebration. They discussed what these strange people were doing, calling them idiots and fools. The Horse King can catch them or prove that he is truly worthy of respect. At that moment, the girl realized that this was her brother, whom she had been looking for so long. She couldn't believe the truth and thought for a long time whether it was really him. She suggested that these people were indeed connected to the Mega Dead group. Among them were the people responsible for the drums, vocals, and electric guitar in the band. The girl couldn't understand why they used such a style, considering them idiots. At that moment, the coach said that the guy tried to make fun of him again but apologized and asked for forgiveness. At that moment, he used all his gluteal muscles, putting maximum effort into achieving his goal. The guy put in a lot of effort trying to perform the exercise as best and strong as possible. He said that they would continue training as soon as he returned from the restroom, and the guy asked him to wait with him. Horseblood looked very excited today, but he replied that he had no sympathy for these guys. At that moment someone turned to him and he turned his head, surprised by the unexpected appearance. It was some girl who came up quickly and started asking him questions without hesitation. He couldn't figure out if she was his first fan or just a casual admirer. She asked if he minded and he replied that of course everything was fine and they could talk. The girl asked him to move away a little to talk to another person and he obediently moved away. She suddenly ran up to the guy and started asking if he had been to a concert before and if he had a girlfriend. It was her phone number and she asked him to contact her, promising to wait for a message. Apparently the money raised for charity was delivered safely and without incident. Although they looked unreliable, these two had great influence in their field. The Horse King and Passy helped those who had lost family, providing support and assistance during difficult times. Those in the crowd gathered and formed a band using the proceeds from the concert to help those in need. It was these two who were actively involved in charity work and provided support to victims. The girl smiled as she listened to this. The Horse King seemed strange but spread good energy among the people. Perhaps that is why when she is with them everything seems bright and positive despite the oddities. She asked the girl how she met these two who looked like old friends and comrades. The girl began to ask if she really knew the Horse King and how well she knew him. She began to remember when they first met and how long ago it was in her life. She remembered that she used to be fat and insecure until she started exercising. At one point she fell off the treadmill and everyone around immediately turned their attention to her. Despite this, the girl continued to get up and did not give up, demonstrating her determination and perseverance. Later someone turned to her to support and help her in difficult times. It was the Horse King who told her to stop worrying and keep practicing. She replied that she had already been working on the Rubik's Cube until 3 in the morning and asked him to leave her alone. He said he looked strange, but he owned the rocking chair and asked her to trust him. The girl replied that he could leave, not wanting to listen to his explanations and excuses. He did not understand her harsh words and asked if she was like a real horse in her behavior. She asked if it was funny to watch a fat man hobbling and trying to hide from view. The Horse King asked who was laughing at her and why she was behaving so rudely and harshly. He told her to look at her weight and think that suffering does not hear how someone wrote pig there. But in reality no one even paid attention to her and she was worried and anxious in vain. He noted that perhaps there had been some misunderstanding and suggested that she not take it to heart. But the girl simply started running away at that moment, not wanting to explain or continue the conversation. The guy remained watching her as she ran away, trying not to look back. A light, cheerful atmosphere reigned at that moment while the girl continued to train on the treadmill. Then she almost fell again but managed to catch herself in time without losing her balance and concentration. The Horse King came up behind her and said that she was always full of determination and fortitude. As it turned out, at that moment he was also full of determination and wanted to support her in everything. He said he decided to try something new, so he joined a group related to delicious restaurants. He had already forgotten what it was like to be so fat and insecure, and he wanted to change. He didn't know what he was going to do next because everyone would stare and comment on his appearance. They will judge him, laugh at him, point fingers, and say unflattering things about his body. Today may be the day when he can love himself and accept all his peculiarities. At that moment, someone unexpectedly came, interrupting their conversation and drawing attention to themselves. At that moment, no one asked what exactly he had done or why he had appeared in that place. She said that now he sees everything clearly and now he also understands what is happening around him. The boy started laughing and asking if he could hit his body, but the Horse King said it wouldn't be easy. Not everyone paid attention and said that his movements were perfect, and he admitted that he was thinking about buns. Everyone laughed and said that it was real rock and roll, full of energy and drive on stage. He asked what people thought because opinions don't change so easily if they've known it for a long time. He was still himself despite the changes and the new weight he had lost. He did not understand why she was so confident in her views and words about him, but let her do it, enjoy the exercises and movements because that's the main thing for her. After that day, Yura tried her best, did not spare herself, and trained hard every day. Naturally, the Horse King helped her in her training despite his sometimes cruel methods. Although his methods were sometimes brutal, they worked together towards their goal and achieved success. After training, they ate together, recuperating and discussing their progress and plans. The girl girl made every effort, greeted everyone, and tried to establish relationships with those around her. The Horse King looked at her with pride and confidence, seeing how she was changing. At that moment, her inner strength and confidence awakened, which helped her overcome difficulties. She was able to lift the barbell up, which greatly surprised everyone present and herself. It was impressive, and she felt like she could go to hell and come back stronger. The girl was breathing heavily at this point, taking a deep breath after an intense approach. She took a deep breath, relaxed, and smiled very widely, feeling satisfied with the result. She told everyone that nothing special had happened, although she herself was very pleased with the progress. They said it was just a toilet, but wondered why it took so long. At that moment, an earthquake began, and people could not understand what was happening around them. A monster appeared, and something incredible and frightening to all people began to happen on the street. All the people on the street were surprised and confused by the sudden and strong explosion nearby. The girl asked the Horse King and Kivin what was happening at this incredible moment. She saw in front of her that same unidentified object that was moving straight towards the earth from the sky. No one understood what it was and what threat this mysterious object could pose. Kivin reported that a notification had arrived from the association and that it was necessary to urgently evacuate the area. The girl didn't know whether to just leave or try to figure out if he was really a hero. They began to ask the Horse King what they should do next, asking for at least some advice. He said that this could not happen and that we needed to prepare for the most serious danger. The girl asked what exactly they were talking about and how they should react to what was happening. If the object is so huge, then what can they do? They just need to follow the order and wait. They looked back, expecting something incredible and dangerous to happen. Suddenly, a bright column of light appeared, illuminating everything around and causing fear in those present. After this, a red light came on, signaling an emergency and danger. Someone said it was a fascinating spectacle, the highest level of evolution for survival in an unfamiliar world. He can't wait to see how strong the warriors have become, ready to fight the unknown force. At that moment, a monster of unknown rank, the commander of the Fifth Link, came out to them asking about actions. He asked if they should hurry and gather the harvest in preparation for a possible fight or flight. Everyone was surprised by this turn of events and did not expect that everything would take such an unexpected turn. The Horse King laughed loudly and asked what else could happen in this complicated story. The apparatus informed him that the commanders were mistaken and that these were not at all the creatures they thought. He was informed that these organisms were people, completely different creatures not similar to the known enemies. According to the analysis, only 10% of the warriors came to life and were not even destroyed by people. This means that the mission has failed and the enemies will not be able to achieve their goals in this world. He couldn't understand what it meant to fail, considering how long it had taken to get here. He vowed to destroy all parasites and bastards who dared to interfere with him and his plans. However, they did not understand what exactly he was talking about and asked who these parasites were and why. He could not allow them to continue in this manner and decided to take decisive action immediately. The girl asked where he was going to go, and Ji-hyun told her not to move. She must remain calm because he arrived on a dangerous spaceship. It is better not to do anything stupid. The Horse King approached them, carefully examining the situation and assessing everyone around him. He asked why they were afraid, trying to understand how serious the threat really was. At that moment, he caught them with a word, and everyone started laughing, defusing the tense situation. He said that he didn't care because teaching children was his specialty and let the weaklings watch. He said that he could no longer tolerate such insolence from this uncivilized and disgusting bastard. He received a ticket for illegally parking his spaceship right in the middle of the training area. At that moment, he looked at the ship and thought about how to avoid further problems. Naturally, the Horse King at this moment used his strength and simply pushed him from behind. As a result, he flew into some cage, finding himself locked in with no way to get out on his own. The Horse King asked if it was worth destroying it completely to avoid further trouble. In response, he simply remained silent, realizing that further words would be superfluous in this situation. He called the enemy a damn insect and declared that he would destroy him without hesitation or regret. But he added that they won't let him down a second time and he will become much more careful in the future. The guy used the mega container capture technique, which played a very important role in the fight. This really had a huge impact on the outcome of the clash, changing the course of events in their favor. They started saying that their group was not weak and stupid while using Mega Double Strike. The guy said it was a great job and he was going to finish it right away. But the Horse King interrupted him and said that this monster belonged to him and would be destroyed. His specialty was the Horse King's strike, powerful and precise, leaving no chance for enemies. At this moment, the monster was very surprised, not expecting such a powerful and decisive blow. The boy screamed, preparing for the next clash, and was going to fight until the very end. After this, a powerful explosion occurred which illuminated everything around with a bright and blinding light. The light from the explosion was so bright that everyone present closed their eyes for several seconds. This blow left a noticeable mark that long reminded everyone of the event that had taken place. Everyone was very surprised and could not understand how something like this was even possible in this situation. At that moment, people began to turn into stones as if they had fallen under a powerful spell or curse. The Horse King was in shock, not understanding what was happening and how he could ask for $1 million for this. At that moment, the king turned his attention to Dave, who also began to turn to stone. He also turned to stone at that moment, which caused even more surprise among everyone. The Horse King looked straight into his eyes, trying to understand what had happened to his friend. His guitar also turned to stone, as if the entire stage and instruments had succumbed to magic or a virus. And strangely enough, he himself also turned into stone, frozen in stillness and silence. At that moment, his head fell off his body, causing shock and horror among the people around him. Everyone was very surprised and could not believe what was happening before their eyes. They couldn't understand how this was even possible and tried to find an explanation for what had happened. The monster was ready to continue fighting despite the strange and inexplicable events around him. Everyone immediately ran to Dave, trying to help him and understand how to save their friend. The Horse King looked at them at that moment, trying to collect his thoughts and make a decision. He immediately began to remember the moments with his friend that had connected them for many years. He remembered his genuine smile filled with friendship and support during difficult times. Then I saw his face right in front of me, as if a friend was there no matter what. The guy started shouting the truth, trying to convey to everyone the meaning of what was happening and warn about the danger. No one understood what was happening here, and many were confused and panicked. He quickly said that their chirping hurt his ears, comparing his enemies to annoying insects. At that moment, he stopped abruptly, feeling strange changes in his own body and soul. Something unusual and mysterious began to happen to the Horse King, changing him from the inside. Some unknown forces began to come to him, filling him with power and new energy. The person or creature was watching him through the screen, carefully studying what was happening. He was very surprised at that moment, not expecting such a turn of events and changes. The Horse King cried strangely at this moment, as if expressing all the pain and fatigue from the brutal battle. But this was horror. A completely different person, very strong and able to withstand any dangers and enemies. He accepted such a monster, not afraid to fight him face to face, showing his true strength. The monster began to defend itself at this point, trying to repel the powerful attacks that the Horse King was delivering non-stop. The Horse King continued to attack, not giving the enemy a single chance to catch his breath or counterattack. The girl noticed this aura, still as bright and powerful as when their fight began. The king continued to fight despite fatigue and wounds, demonstrating incredible will and desire to win. After this, a powerful explosion occurred, deafening everyone around and blinding with a flash, as if the apogee of their battle. The Horse King continued to shout loudly, expressing all his determination and fighting spirit in this difficult battle. For an insect, he was a good opponent, but now it was time to retreat into the shadows and come to his senses. But now it's time for him to sleep, to regain his strength before the next round of the fight for survival and victory. At that moment, someone threw him far away, as if throwing off the last threat and the weight of the battle. The Horse King began to have blood in his mouth, which caused great concern among all those watching the fight. Everyone started to worry about him, and this was quite natural because no one wanted to lose such a strong ally. He began to wear the line, and it was at that moment that the tension reached its limit, causing everyone to freeze in anticipation. The Horse King tried his best to defend himself, using his last strength to keep the enemy from getting closer. At that moment, the trash threw him far away from itself again, dealing a strong blow and leaving a deep mark. The blow was so powerful that it caused an explosion, destroying everything around and forcing the enemies to retreat. The monster looked at everyone as if assessing the situation and trying to figure out how to get out of the current situation. But the Horse King was not ready to give up so easily and immediately rose to his feet, ready to continue the fight. He took a fighting stance and prepared to attack, showing his strength and determination in every move. Right at that moment, he was approaching the monster, intending to deliver the decisive blow and end the battle. The monster said that it was all very fun and even interesting despite all the danger and tension. Everyone started to stop the Horse King, trying to keep him from making rash actions and risking losing control. The girl begged the Horse King, asking him to stop for the sake of their common safety and survival. Just at that moment, someone suddenly attacked him, distracting him and forcing him to change his plans at the most unexpected moment. He, old as he was very surprised because it was not he who had done this action but someone else. It was Yura herself who decisively intervened in the battle to protect her friends and stop the carnage. The girl was very surprised by her actions, but she understood that she could not have acted differently in that situation. Yura really did it at that moment without thinking about the consequences, just wanting to save everyone and everything. She said that he was not in his right mind right now and that she would do everything she could to help, so they needed to run. There is only one enemy here, but he is still a C rank, so defeating him will be difficult and dangerous. Something started to happen to this number which attracted the attention of everyone around and made them wary. The monster took notice of this and began to prepare for a new attack, sensing the approaching threat and danger. At this moment, several more monsters appeared and began to surround the heroes, increasing the tension of the situation. People definitely took notice, realizing that the situation could escalate into a full-scale battle. The monsters said that they were lucky, but unfortunately this fight would soon end because they had little strength left. He ordered the others to get rid of all enemies so as to leave no one alive and ensure victory. At that moment, the ship began to disappear, as if dissolving into thin air and leaving behind only silence. Then he just disappeared in a split second, as if he had never been there, leaving everyone in shock and confusion. Ji-hyun was very surprised by such a quick disappearance and could not understand what really happened. She saw that there were a lot of monsters around, ready to attack at any moment and not let her escape. The monsters began to attack them from different sides, creating chaos and forcing the heroes to defend themselves with all their might. Yura asked why she was idle and getting in the way, so she demanded that she hurry up and leave as soon as possible. At that moment, the guy noticed something strange that could change the course of the battle or the outcome of the whole situation. He said that she must be careful because the enemy was preparing a new attack and she must remain vigilant. Yura turned her attention to him at that moment, realizing that the warning was very important and timely. Just at that moment, someone attacked the monsters from afar, dealing a powerful blow and weakening their ranks. He killed most of the monsters with one attack, which surprised everyone and inspired the heroes to continue the fight. Yura naturally paid attention to this and felt that the situation was beginning to turn in their favor. At that moment, an unknown person suddenly appeared, attracting the attention of everyone around with his mysterious aura and behavior. He asked not to rush, assuring that everything was under control and that the situation was in perfect order. However, among the standing knights in armor, a C-rank hero stood out, a boy from the 21st century named Juin. Yura said that he was late and suggested that he say hello to the others so as not to create tension. At that moment, he was not listening to her at all, as he was focused and paying attention to what was happening around him. He saw a deep wound in himself and realized that the situation had become much more serious than it had previously seemed. He came when he realized that someone dared to leave a scratch on his beautiful bride and was extremely angry. The girl could not understand what bride meant, but she felt the excitement and anxiety that were in the air. The guy immediately became enraged and started shouting that he would not forgive those who had hurt his loved ones so much. He was indignant. How dare they? How could they do this to those he loves? The wound inflicted on his beloved caused a storm of emotions in him, which he decided to express through violent actions. He began to attack the enemies, killing them all in 1 second, as if demonstrating his incredible strength. In his anger, he shouted that they were all dead and that there would be no mercy for their enemies. At that moment, a powerful explosion occurred which stunned everyone and changed the course of events radically. The girl began to cry next to her brother, feeling all the pain and tragedy of what had happened. Some monster attacked her, but the situation was too confusing to understand the details right away. Then it became unclear what had happened, but the guy saved her in time, not allowing the tragedy to develop further. He looked at her closely at that moment, feeling a strong sense of concern and a desire to protect. After this, he literally smashed his opponent's head until it bled, proving his unyielding determination and strength. Yura said that she would not take responsibility for a loser, and that everyone should be responsible for their own actions. The girl said that she could no longer hold back and that now she too was ready to help in the fight against the enemies. With tears in her eyes, she said that they must hurry and save the Horse King at any cost. Yura smiled and looked at her with support and hope, seeing in her a true ally and friend. They all began to attack the monsters, fighting as a single team and not giving the enemy the slightest chance. They truly fought together, showing a high level of interaction and coordination in combat. Yura and the girl fought together, complementing each other and jointly repelling the attacks of the monsters. The guy also actively participated in the fight, demonstrating skill and determination. Together they truly made a great team, and their efforts produced successful results. After some time, there was not a single monster left on the battlefield. All were destroyed without a trace. The guy started to approach the girl, asking if she was hurt and saying that he wanted to kiss her. The girl asked if he was really her boyfriend and demanded that he shut up because it was inappropriate. She was surprised and asked where her real boyfriend and protector was at that moment. Everyone was looking for the man who was supposed to be there to protect them, but he was nowhere to be seen. Where was the Horse King at that very moment when they all needed his help so much? At this time, something strange was happening in the forest, and no one could understand what exactly was happening. The Horse King lay unconscious in some lake, completely exhausted and without breathing. His condition was very serious, and he seemed completely exhausted from the previous battles and trials. The spacecraft was already over another city, preparing for the next stage of the mission or attack. As it turned out, there were several more of the same ships in the sky, which increased the threat of a monster invasion. Of course, they left nothing good behind, only destruction and crowds of monsters on the ground. One girl was scared to death by everything that was happening and did not know where to run or what to do. The situation had become critical, and it was clear that without urgent action, the consequences would be catastrophic. The monster invasion continued throughout the world, and if no action was taken, humanity would be on the brink of destruction. In the conference room for the heroes' leaders, the situation and ways to prevent further destruction were discussed. Someone said that the invasion should be called a cleansing and that maybe they would get results faster that way. There seems to be an information leak in the infrastructure, but the cultivation is unaffected and the monsters are destroying everything. There is only one catch. The command forces and the Corps commander himself must take action immediately. If there is no reaction to this, the planet Earth will be completely and irrevocably destroyed. This cannot continue any longer, and everyone began to check the current state of the lower samples to analyze the situation. Sample 1608 has entered its prime and is being closely watched by Black, but there is something else important. If her alliance found out about this, it would likely mean the end of everything she had tried to preserve. As they say, we won't be forced to visit Mount Kumgangsan because our stomachs require food, so let's have a snack first. It's Sunday, maybe they'll order a plate of jajangmyeon with seafood since Asian restaurants don't seem to be open. Don't Asian restaurants close today? Yura asked in surprise, looking at the city streets. At this moment, Mozart continued to walk among the city, carefully observing what was happening around him. A bird suddenly flew into the barrier, after which it immediately fell unconscious to the ground. The monster asked another if they had found anything interesting, but was told that there was nothing important yet. Then he decided to go on searching, carefully listening to instructions and not losing his vigilance. At that moment, something was under guard, and they approached the place with special caution. It was a fun rocking chair that was under a strong barrier and protected from danger. Yura asked in surprise if they were making fun of her, since the city was now in such a terrible state. The city is in such a deplorable state, and these assholes from the association don't even answer the phone, and the girl was ready to kill them. She is afraid that something bad might happen in such a dangerous situation, but the guy told her not to worry. At that moment, she was treating her cat, who looked very weak and hardly responded to her help. The cat did not respond to her energy at all, despite all her attempts to heal him with strength and attention. At that moment, someone came in and asked how long they could chat with the Horse King, and the girl immediately fell asleep. Juin had already returned with the members of his group and told them not to worry, because they had damaged the enemy's shelters. His ears still ring from the loud screams, and he doesn't understand why adults whine so much. Yura asked what he had just said, and of course the answer was not about her personally but about others. By the way, this consciousness is called Shinsu, a special power that can absorb negative emotions and influence the owner. They have a kind of contract or special relationship with this consciousness that cannot be broken even if you go crazy. She and Yura also have such a relationship, but in the guy's opinion it is much deeper and more unusual. So it was precisely because of this special relationship and unique connection with Shinsu's consciousness that he was so unusual. He thinks it was more because of Dave, the guy with the little sister who is the one with all the secrets. According to the stories, Dave is like family to him because they have been through many trials and difficulties together. One could observe the boy and the girl as mutual sympathy and trust gradually developed between them. The guy was holding a cap with flowers in his hands, which was clearly intended for the girl to give to her. He handed the girl a bouquet of flowers, trying to express his feelings, but the girl reacted sharply and unexpectedly. The girl did not accept the bouquet, but instead simply hit the guy in the face, showing her irritation and anger. She said that he was disgusting in expressing his feelings and asked him to stop showing his emotions to her. As always, no one recognizes his sincere feelings, and he is afraid of never being loved by anyone. At that moment, he noticed some cool guy who stood out from the crowd. Then he was very surprised to see that this guy did something completely unexpected and unusual. The girls said that he was so cool and funny, and that he just captivated everyone around him. They couldn't understand how girls could like him with such a face. Maybe he was a love guru. At that moment, he fell on his knees, expressing his sincere request and desire to be loved. He said that he also wanted to be loved and asked to teach him how to win hearts. Nobody knew who this guy really was, and everyone was scared, needing new ideas. The guy hoped until the very end that this cool man would be able to help him and give him some good advice. He apologized to everyone and said that his date for today was over and he needed to concentrate. After that, he approached the guy to start a conversation with him and discuss plans for the future. He told him that they would go together and make a real man and a hero out of him. The surest way to please girls is to build strong muscles and be confident. That's why he decided to start training and gradually build up a big mountain of cool muscles. Here he will be reborn, change, and become stronger both physically and spiritually. The guy began to train hard, putting all his energy and strength into each exercise. He tried his best, never missing a single training session and constantly striving for progress. Of course, the Horse King helped him with this, supporting and motivating him at every step. The guy was strong in spirit and did not give up for a second despite all the difficulties and failures. The Horse King looked at him carefully, approving of his tenacity and determination to achieve his goal. But he said that even though he was a human, he now looked more like a real man. With the basics out of the way, the most important stage of the hero's true transformation begins. Maybe he'll take this suit, the last piece of the puzzle that will make him a real man. And now let's go. Today he is not just an amateur, he is a professional, and love will definitely find him. Then at that moment, some girl was standing at the bus stop waiting for her transport home. The guy started saying that it was just a coincidence, he just happened to be passing by the bus stop here. The girl paid attention to him, although she herself did not understand why exactly he interested her. The guy was dressed very strangely, which immediately caught the eye and raised questions. He laughed and told her to watch and not fall because he was a real man. But the girl did not react at all to his attempts to attract attention and interest her. At this point, the Horse King told him to go away because he was a nasty guy. It was a complete loss for the guy, and he didn't understand what exactly went wrong. He could not understand what failure meant because his theory was almost perfect and successful. His perfect theory with a 100% chance of success did not work, and he lost confidence. Take something like this. This technique was rated at 200 points by more than 30 women. Apparently, it was interesting to understand what exactly the problem was and why nothing was working. The guy himself didn't understand what exactly was going on, but it was clearly something serious and complicated. Then he just started laughing, trying to hide his confused and depressed state. The guy started asking why he was laughing, not understanding the reasons for such a strange reaction. He started calling him long-haired and said that he was a liar and not trustworthy. How old is he anyway that he addresses him in such a rude and disrespectful tone? He replied that he was 28 and that he deserved respect and proper treatment. Then let him address him as he should and not as a petty and senseless asshole. The Horse King said that he would not tolerate such treatment and immediately intervened. Just imagine how Malvan feels about losing Dave, who cared so much for him all his life. Yura said that it is important to find him as quickly as possible now because he is in critical condition. The guy replied that it was impossible, they didn't even know where he could be at the moment. He searched for him using drones, but there were no traces or clues nearby. Yura said that the others should sit here and she alone would go look for her missing friend. She started crying and said that if something happened to him, she simply couldn't bear it. Meanwhile, they asked Juin if there was really no way to find him faster and more efficiently. The guy was already furious about his helplessness and the tense situation surrounding his friend's disappearance. He looked at the island where there was a lack of love and support from those around him. He was the King of Hearts who was always in the spotlight and cared about people. The girl asked what they were doing there, especially the little children who didn't understand at all. Strangely enough there, he was a man hungry for love and his love radar never failed. He asked how he got here since his consciousness was hidden by holograms and complex defenses. Everyone was amazed that nothing could stop this man and his ability to overcome obstacles. At that moment, they did not notice his radar, which scanned the entire area very quickly. The locker then began to shake, causing panic among everyone inside. The guy sat inside frightened, afraid of any unexpected events and possible threats. He peered through the cracks, trying to understand what was happening beyond his shelter and safety. The King of Hearts asked if there was anyone there who could help or counteract the danger. His man, thirsty for love, continued to watch what was happening and think about his next steps. At that moment, something incomprehensible and alarming began to happen, causing everyone to freeze in anticipation. The girl definitely noticed the strange events and decided to intervene to help. She approached him and asked what he wanted, intending to get to know each other and establish contact. She looked at him confidently, not hiding her intention to establish a connection and communication. Then the girl pursed her lips and said that she had an interesting and unexpected idea for them. Their skin touched and he felt like he needed to do something about it because the touch was gentle. He says this just in case for Lady Zihian because such touching of a man is undesirable and dangerous. Just at that moment, several aggressive and dangerous monsters suddenly appeared in front of them. The girl closed her eyes for a moment, trying to concentrate and prepare for the upcoming danger. But the King of Hearts said she was calm despite the tense and anxious atmosphere. Malvan's signal showed that he was far from here, possibly in an extremely dangerous place. The king told the girl to stop clinging and focus on the task at hand without being distracted. The girl asked to wait for the Horse King a little longer so that he could regain his strength before the fight. His suit was a complete battle dress, a real man in chic and comfortable shorts. At that moment, the king found himself somewhere alone, surrounded by darkness and dangers on all sides. He realized that he had walked right into a pile of blood, and the situation had become much more serious and dangerous. He wondered with surprise if he thought he was some kind of superhero to find himself in such a confusing situation. Wasn't he himself made of blood? He thought, trying to understand the reasons for what was happening around him. He asked what he was talking about and why he was scaring him so that he wouldn't make him laugh or distract him. At that moment, someone suddenly began to appear from the darkness, attracting the attention of everyone around. Right in the middle of the battle, a man appeared who could change the course of events with his intervention. He was afraid to look him in the eyes, which showed his indecision and fear of the enemy. At that moment, the regulated blood suddenly hit him, causing severe pain and knocking him off balance. It was very painful, and he could barely hold back a scream, trying to understand what had happened. The Horse King noticed something unusual and became wary, preparing for a new threat. He thought that someone had gone crazy and was laughing at them, which made him even more irritated and worried. This was actually a Horse King, only in his youth he looked like a real witch. The coach did not understand what exactly was happening and why the situation had become so confusing and strange. The guy said that it was time for lunch because no one had brought her food or support yet. He thought that if he was hungry, he wouldn't have enough strength even for the simplest and lightest blow. He asked if someone had gone crazy, and replied that the teacher had called him into the office to explain. The Horse King immediately began to remember all these events from his school past and experiences. It was his school years full of trials, battles, and hard life lessons that made him stronger. They beat him and told him it was right, but in response he just silently endured and dreamed of revenge. The Horse King told him to shut up and ask who he was and what he wanted. The guy decided that it was all a dream and tried to hit himself to wake up from the nightmare. However, nothing happened, and he did not wake up, remaining captive to his fears and doubts. He did not understand what the dream meant and asked to look into his eyes to make sure it was real. His His face had been disfigured for almost a year, but now he tried to act like a leading character. The Horse King told him to shut up, because he didn't understand what he was saying or talking about. He was sure that for his words and actions this man would be cursed and lose everything forever. Suddenly Dave appeared right behind him, and this sudden appearance greatly surprised and alarmed him. "Stop showing off," Dave said, "because only a real man can behave with dignity and courage. Alpha needs to do real manly work and not think that he is the main hero of this world. Why should he die because of an idiot like this guy? He is not a hero at all." The Horse King simply closed his eyes for a moment to gather his thoughts and strength. Then he opened his eyes abruptly and realized that he had to act immediately to save the situation. He didn't understand where he was, and why he found himself in such a strange and unfamiliar place. Most likely he was in a subway car that was slowly moving through tunnels underground. The Horse King still couldn't understand what was going on and how he could get out of here. A man said that this was Tenzuo subway station and that the ambulance would not arrive here yet. At that moment someone addressed him, attracting his attention and surprise at the same time. It was a bat or something like that, and then Yura appeared descending down to him. She told him to back off and stop interfering because she also wanted to be the hero in this story. He did not understand what it meant to say let him do this or that and why certain actions were required of him. He didn't understand that he was incapable of anything and that no one expected real action from him. She said he had a horse face and it sounded like a very strong insult. It's a lie, but he's a real freak causing bewilderment and hidden fear in everyone. He imagined himself as a hero, but in reality he remained a typical villain without any boundaries. Even villains need to have boundaries, but he refuses to follow them even though he's not that evil. This is just insignificant trash that does not deserve any respect or any attention from others. The Horse King saw Kevin in front of him and asked him if he knew the lines of real villains. There was an explosion, after which he said that he repented for all his terrible and horrible actions. At that moment another man appeared who looked very threatening and mysterious to everyone. He asked if anyone was looking for the villains, clearly preparing to engage in a brutal battle with them. Does he want to die or what? Everyone who saw his despair and hopelessness wondered. A nasty liar. It's all because of him that grown-up guys with the brains of a second grader constantly quarrel. Everyone started to escalate the situation around him, accusing and criticizing him non-stop and for every reason. The girl said that he killed her brother, which caused her great pain and strong tears. He agrees that he is indeed a liar and a pretender, just an immature and weak puppy. All this was happening right around him and he could do nothing to stop it. He said it was all a lie and tried to protect his friends and family from harm. What does it mean to protect them? Who does he think he is? Let him not turn away and look. Everyone said that he would be the one to do it and save everyone from the impending terrible disaster. The girl found him and told him to wake up and stop being in a state of stupor. He felt so bad that he urgently needed to go to the hospital for help. The King of Hearts told her to be quiet because it was unlikely that they would be able to help him in the hospital. He couldn't understand what it all meant and felt completely lost and confused. The simple, he was deep, but it was a different type of sleep, different from ordinary dreams. He doesn't understand this or that. Let him look closely at his wet and trembling lips. He said that everything was true for the prince who fell asleep having become a victim of an ancient spell. The only way to wake up is his sweet and long-awaited kiss from true love. At that moment the girl hit him and called him a pervert, expressing her strong dissatisfaction and anger. The girl said that she did not do it on purpose and that she deeply regrets what happened. She realized that she had to decide everything herself and set about it without the slightest delay. She told him to wait a little while. She would definitely heal him and bring him back to life. Let them run and save themselves. A monster of the highest class A was discovered 100 meters away from him. The guy couldn't believe that this was even possible and didn't know what to do in this situation. Yura said that they needed to run urgently to escape the danger approaching them. At that moment, a powerful explosion occurred that shook everyone around and changed the course of history. The guy started telling the girl to come to her senses and not to lose consciousness for so long. Kevin couldn't understand how everything happened so quickly and suddenly remaining stunned by what happened. He looked up, trying to comprehend what was happening around and inside him at that very moment. Two monsters suddenly attacked him, forcing him to fight for his life and his own safety. After this, an explosion occurred which plunged everyone around into a state of shock and complete panic. He opened his eyes and felt that he was alive and ready to fight further despite the severe pain. As it turned out, someone saved him at the very last moment and gave him hope for survival. He realized that it was the manager who had done everything in his power to help him stay alive. The manager tried his best and did everything possible to prevent him from dying in battle. The boy shouted at him not to give up and to keep fighting despite the pain and fatigue. At this moment they were attacked again, but they were ready for another furious and brutal battle. It was at this moment that Juin saved him by unexpectedly appearing and joining the fight on his side. He didn't expect them to reach this place so quickly. Everything turned out to be much more dangerous. These creatures were stronger than normal monsters, which made everyone extremely wary. Juin looked at them in surprise and fear, realizing that a difficult and dangerous battle lay ahead. Despite all this, they continued to run away, trying to save their lives at any cost and by any force. At that moment, the monster attacked the guy, causing him serious problems. He understood that the situation was very dangerous and that something needed to be done urgently. At that moment, the monster was ready to crush Yura, threatening her life and causing fear in everyone around. The guy continued to shout at her, trying to bring her back to consciousness and make her come to her senses faster. At the most critical moment, a powerful explosion occurred which radically changed the situation on the field. The monster was distracted, attracting the attention of everyone around him with his sudden loss of concentration and combat readiness. He realized that he could neither hurt nor harm the girl despite all his efforts. As it turned out, the guy came to her aid at the most necessary and decisive moment for her. He couldn't believe that the end had come so quickly, unexpectedly, and without any warning. His shining glory as a hero from legend seemed close to disappearing, lost in this battle. He began to say goodbye to his dreams, preparing to accept the inevitable and embrace a new life. At this time, someone else appeared, unfamiliar and impressive, capable of radically changing the course of events. He was a hero who came to the rescue at the most difficult moment when everyone was already losing hope. The guy immediately recognized him as Red Mask, a legendary fighter with unique and unrivaled abilities. An A-rank hero who can combine moves from different action movies and display unrivaled strength. The monster was amazed and confused by the appearance of such a powerful and sudden enemy in front of him. The guy said that they needed to leave using the 36th Shinsu exercise, lifting the girl above his head. He shouted loudly to Red Mask, demanding immediate action and immediate assistance in the fight. The man looked at him in surprise, realizing the seriousness and danger hanging over them. He replied that now was the right moment to act quickly and decisively without delay. The boy looked at him with amazement and hope, believing that everything was still possible. At that moment, the monster came so close that the guy did not have time to react and defend himself in time. Red Mask said something about the first frame, as if preparing for an important and fateful action. The cameraman announced that the camera was ready and the angle was perfect for filming all the important and dramatic events. The girl lost consciousness again, but her performance was so convincing that no one doubted it. The drone was in standby mode, preparing to begin the countdown to Red Mask's final exit. In 10 seconds, the hero was supposed to come out to save the situation and everyone who was in danger. The countdown had begun, and everyone was eagerly preparing for the action to begin, waiting for the fateful moment. The men began preparing, checking their equipment, and preparing themselves mentally for the upcoming battle. He was asked if he was ready, and he replied that he was almost ready but needed a little more time. At this point, the monsters continued to fight fiercely, not giving each other the slightest respite. The guy took the girl in his arms and ran into the night, trying to save her from imminent death. Red Mask was fully prepared for action and was going to enter the battle without hesitation or delay. The operator noticed an unusual determination and confidence in the guy's gaze, which stood out from the rest. The guy said he put in more effort, driven by desperation and a strong desire to survive at any cost. Everything that happened was filmed on camera, and his performance became better and more convincing every day. The extras also put in some effort, creating a real atmosphere of battle and tense anticipation of the result. The boy was asked if he was okay, and he thanked them for their concern and support. Red Mask replied that a hero shines brightest when fighting a great and sinister evil. His role was so convincing that he looked even more attractive and charismatic on camera. He believed that justice still existed and that everything could be fixed with enough desire and effort. The guy considered himself very cool and capable of many things, not fearing any tests of fate and life. There were only 5 seconds left until the decisive moment when everything was supposed to change dramatically. At this moment, the struggle for lives and destinies began on which the future of all those present depended. Red Mask said that no one should be afraid because he will not let anyone die. He promised to save everyone from any danger wherever they were and whatever it might be. He was ready to fight today to save even one person from an inevitable and terrible death. Hot as a flame and elusive as lightning, that was Red Mask at that very moment. He rushed to help to protect everyone who was in danger and needed urgent protection. At that moment he was simply sent away, and the guy asked in surprise what he was doing anyway. He asked if he was a kid he would have taken a lot of shit, but in his opinion it was too much, just a swindler. He is afraid to get his feathers dirty once again so as not to get into trouble or unnecessary problems. In arm wrestling, even a chicken could beat him without much effort or work on its part. To hell with it, he'll kill him himself. Even if he dies, they'll burn in hell together later. He's live on air, so why the hell is he there? Let him go and not disturb everyone. The cameraman was furious with him, not understanding how he could behave so recklessly on camera. But it was at that moment that the boy began to attack him with full determination and force. He said that he would be the first to die, the first to fall, and he was not going to give up just like that. The third camera noticed that the guy was just an extra, uninteresting and weak. The guy was trying to understand what it meant to be an extra and why they called him that. He bullies, often works as a villain and plays the role of a real and dangerous enemy. Everyone was very scared by his appearance and did not understand what to do next. It's too noisy here. It looks like a legendary battle that will be remembered for a long time. The most humane of the Horse Kings always defended the weak and fought against injustice. The Red Mask patron asked if the broadcast could be paused but was categorically refused. A more serious villain appeared, threatening the employees whose face seemed familiar to everyone. Now it is important that the picture in the frame looks beautiful and attractive to the audience. Red Mask began to say that the vile villain should not stand in his way, and that he would show him strength. The guy couldn't understand whether everyone was crazy what he was saying in his speech and actions. And who else if not villains like them? But this will not last long. Soon everything will change. As he thought, the situation is changing and the time for truth has come. The decisive moment is near. What he will say to this, perhaps it will be unexpected and will affect the outcome of the battle. Red Mask realized that it was a hostage and became indignant, calling him shameless. Of course he is shameless. He is a villain, but what is conscience for people like him? Let them both die, because there is no place for them in this world and in their world too. At that moment, a powerful explosion occurred, disturbing the peace and changing the course of events. The real monsters said it was very mean and even worse than they could have imagined. It was worse than they expected, and no one wanted to experience such cruelty again. The second camera showed that the Red Mask was fine and ready for the next step. These nasty villains in the name of justice are trash that no one will get away with. At this point, the Red Mask showed a thumbs up, indicating that everything was going according to plan. The operator realized that this was a sign to begin the next phase of action and move forward. At that moment, he went somewhere, quickly disappearing from sight and cameras. Red Mask told the villain to get ready, and the guy laughed, saying that those were his words. At that moment, he dodged the Red Mask's attack, demonstrating his agility and experience. After that, they started fighting each other, showing incredible fighting skills. It was very cool and impressive, and everyone watched their fight with admiration. The hero was even called that, but he was worried about his role and what was happening. His pretense of injury was meant to help achieve the desired effect in the fight. He's had enough of shows for today. It's time to finish and give others a chance to shine. So everything has its time, and today was just such a busy and decisive day. The operator realized that this was a trump card that would decide the outcome of the entire fight. Red Mask began to use some kind of technique and extended his hand forward, concentrating energy. He used the power of fire, water, wind, and earth to generate a powerful energy charge. He used a force storm that was supposed to break the enemy's resistance and their plans. The cameraman said it was very cool and impressive, worthy of the highest praise. Red Mask attacked at this moment with full force and determination to defeat the enemy. He directed all his strength at the boy, intending to break his will and stop him. The guy just lay there at that moment, fighting fatigue and pain in his body. But he understood that it would not end so easily, and he was preparing for the next step. Just at that moment, the red mask came as close to him as possible, causing fear in everyone. Everyone present was very surprised by what was happening and could not believe their eyes. The operators and other people did not understand what exactly was happening and how to react correctly. The mask suddenly broke at the very moment when no one expected it at all. After this incident, he flew very far away without even having time to understand anything. These were real monsters who unexpectedly protected the guy from the impending threat. Everyone was amazed by what they saw, and the broadcast suddenly stopped at that moment. At that very moment, they began to gradually approach the guy, causing alarm. They greeted the Horse King, showing him their full respect and reverence. They asked the Horse King to accept them as his faithful and devoted servants. No one around understood what this meant and what all this could lead to. At that moment, the monsters dropped to their knees, showing their complete submission. The guy began to rise slowly, trying to comprehend what was happening around him. He couldn't understand what it meant to be a Horse King in this strange situation. He said that was wonderful and began to wonder what they would do next for peace. The monsters were clearly happy to hear these words and wholeheartedly supported the king. It was the guy's finest hour when he felt like a real leader. But Yura quickly destroyed all his plans with her unexpected and harsh remark. She said that they were all idiots and did not understand the real situation around them. The girl said that in fact it was just the end of the movie, not reality. The Horse King was called a freak, a nit, and a puppy, humiliating him with words in front of everyone. He tried to explain that they had gotten it all wrong and it was all for protection. But why defend them if he himself is a nonentity pretending not to understand anything? The Horse King tried to justify himself and gain their understanding and support, at least somehow. He said he didn't mean to cause harm, but no one listened to his requests then. At that moment he looked up and was surprised to see a strange cross. He could not understand what kind of cross was hanging right above him, raising questions. At that moment a mysterious man from the shadows began to slowly descend towards him. He could not understand whether it was Jesus or someone else who brought his gifts. At that moment a girl appeared in front of him, and he tried to understand who she was. He couldn't tell if it was Zihian or someone very similar to her. She started asking questions about what he had done and why he had done this to them. She was scared and asked him to stop all this because she was afraid for him. They were already calling each other by name, as if calling for help or insulting each other. The girl asked him if he really wanted to die, not understanding his motives. She demanded that he shut up and remain silent, showing her strength and confidence. The girl was saving him at that moment, showing care and support no matter what. Her goal was to feel Malvan's emotions, but she did not understand what they were because there was fear and anxiety in him. It was something incomprehensible and scary that made her worry the most. She asked him to wait a little longer, promising that she would definitely cure him quickly. At that moment he began to cough heavily, trying to cope with the pain. She noticed that strange changes were taking place in him, which alarmed her. She realized that cold and dark energy were fighting within him, as if they were struggling with each other. What the hell is going on with him, and why did it happen now? They all wondered if the others understood what was going on outside the room. He was aware of what was going on, but he didn't understand why someone was lounging around here. It wasn't like that, he was just pulling out his darkest memories from the past. The girl could not stand it any longer and ordered everyone to finally shut up so she could concentrate. After her words, they both immediately shut up and stopped bothering each other. Only through joint efforts and actions can they win, and not through empty talk. They were both really hurt by the comment about having to win to prove their strength. The girl asked ironically whether it was really so difficult to find a common language through a simple comparison of eggs. In response, she proposed a showdown consisting of 3 diverse male and competitive categories. The guys looked at each other in disbelief. Was it really a real steel heavy barbell that they were talking about? The girl explained that it would all start with the deadlift, where the winner would be the one who lifted the most weight. According to the rules, the minimum increase is 10 kilograms and only one attempt at lifting is allowed. She asked if they had any questions, but one of them didn't have time to say anything before he was interrupted. Without letting him finish, she gave the order to begin the competition immediately without tolerating any objections or excuses. To begin with, they set the weight to 450 kilograms to test the limits of each person's endurance. One of them asked incredulously if it really was 450 kilograms, as if she had gone crazy. crazy. He decided to call it a day and focus solely on the bench press. To his disappointment, the first participant was unable to lift the required weight and failed. The girl immediately announced that it was a failure and the loser would be eliminated from the current challenge. Now it was Malvan Tofu's turn, and the girl doubted whether the fake would be able to handle such a weight. However, he lifted the weight with ease, proving to everyone that he is not so simple. The girl said that he was winning the first round and the score was now 0-1. The winner said that it was all about imagination because it was an inner world where everything was possible. The loser responded mockingly that it was just a warm-up before the real fight. The guys simultaneously lay down on the benches to perform the second test, the classic chest press. She announced that the second round was beginning, where the main exercise was a powerful and heavy bench press. The real guy lifted 200 kilograms with ease, surprising the audience with his preparation. The fake didn't stand aside and asked how about double the weight. He lifted 400. Then the weight only increased. They already tried to lift 450, 500, and even 600 kilograms. The guy tried his best to surpass his opponent, putting in maximum effort and will. In the end, Malvan won again, proving that he is physically capable of much more. He said that the score was tied and now everything would be decided in the final third round. They can't pull, people are dying outside, so it's time to move on to the final exercise. Malvan was confident that in the squat he would show everything his body was capable of. And at that moment the fake resolutely grabbed the barbell, not wanting to give in without a fight. He said that they had had enough of playing around and it was time to end this whole competition. He stood with a huge barbell on his shoulders, straining his muscles to the limit of their capabilities. He asked defiantly, how about a whole ton? Could the opponent repeat the feat? The guy began to doubt whether this weight was real. Such fantasies were forbidden by the Congress of Thoughts. The fake asked with a grin, is it really possible that 700 kilograms have suddenly become acceptable in this world? Suddenly the barbell slipped and crashed to the floor with a crash causing fear in everyone. His opponent stood right in front of him, showing his intention to take the initiative into his own hands. There was a look of rage on his face. He was clearly angry and extremely focused. The girl announced that he had lifted 1 ton and the next in line was the Horse King. The opponent did not understand what was expected of him. He was close to complete despair. He was told to admit defeat because he was just trash, incapable of lifting such a weight. However, at that moment the Horse King suddenly grabbed a piece of asphalt under his feet. The fake grinned and asked if he really decided to charge himself with energy from the earth. That was ridiculous. No one could understand what exactly he was doing. His actions were completely unpredictable. He then jumped up sharply, using momentum and muscle power for his next maneuver. He began jumping on the roofs of buildings and the fake watched in complete confusion. He couldn't believe his eyes. Was he really going to lift 4,000 tons? And so the Horse King grabbed the barbell, concentrating all his inner power within himself. The barbell slowly but surely began to lift off the ground, obeying his will. He threw it over his shoulders as if it were an ordinary piece of sports equipment. The opponent couldn't believe that he was actually trying to lift an entire apartment building. The fake said that he definitely wouldn't be able to pull this off and that failure would inevitably happen again. The Horse King tried his best to overcome the pain and not lose consciousness. He couldn't come to his senses because he didn't understand where such enormous strength came from within him. He decided that it was better to give up on this idea, since in the end nothing would come of it anyway. How many times do I have to tell him that his common sense has completely disappeared if he doesn't understand? He thought he was just a disgrace, but the Horse King ordered him to stop the annoying buzzing immediately. He said that these pathetic attempts were worthless, they did not even deserve human attention. At this point the Horse King added that they could say anything, but it would be better if they opened their eyes. The fake asked with irritation how long this situation could be tolerated. It was unbearable. There's no point in smiling now because it's easier to just give up and end up like Dave, useless. The Horse King admitted that it was all difficult and he was truly sorry, but giving up was foolish. He was so sorry to death, but would anything change if he let go of her hands and gave in? While they are young, they have a chance for a happy future, so it is too early to give up. At that moment Fake just stood there, looked at him, and then, unexpectedly for everyone, he began to cry. He began to cry loudly and at the same time insult him, unable to cope with the overwhelming emotions. He asked her to help him because it was difficult for him, let him lift the concrete or admit that he was weak. The Horse King simply smiled silently at this moment, saying nothing in response to the request. The Fake cried and insisted that he would still lose no matter how strong he was. At that moment the girl grabbed him by the shorts and told him to stop all this whining immediately. She ordered him to lift this weight immediately, otherwise he would be disgraced in front of everyone forever. It was at that moment that she pulled his underwear up with such force that it made him feel uneasy. The boy suddenly felt unbearable pain, as if his body was pierced by 1,000 sharp daggers at once. After this, a strength arose in his gluteal muscles that he had never felt before. The Horse King screamed so loudly that the walls around him shook from the sound. He took a comfortable stance, planted his foot, and concentrated completely on one single upward movement. Immediately after this, the ground beneath his feet began to crack, foreshadowing something catastrophic. It was at this moment that he began to lift the barbell, which he had previously considered absolutely impossible to lift. The Fake couldn't understand where this power came from because even the buildings began to collapse from the stress. At that moment, he suddenly noticed a strange, barely noticeable light in the distance. He saw that, instead of an ordinary guy, there was a huge tiger with bright orange eyes standing there. The Fake simply couldn't believe what he saw because it contradicted logic and common sense. The Horse King said he would not be himself if he did not cope with this, and he knew it. At that moment, the Horse King suddenly woke up and the girl watched him with alarm. A cloud of steam came out of his mouth and he took a deep breath as if he had been resurrected from within. He confidently said that he had succeeded and now nothing could stop him. Then he looked at the girl, thanked her, and said that he was back as he promised. Ji-hyun just looked at him at that moment, not knowing what to say or how to react. The girl reminded that he hadn't promised anything, but he had asked her to just trust him. The King of Hearts exclaimed that he had smelled the scent of a real man and could no longer contain himself. The Horse King at that moment looked thoughtfully into space without saying a word. He looked into the distance and asked if this was the right direction for them to go, doubting whether it was the right direction. At that moment, he looked at the people carefully as if trying to understand something about them. He couldn't comprehend how these parasites still managed to breathe, being so insignificant. Yura did not understand why such a dangerous and unstable situation had arisen right now. Horseblood told the girl that he wouldn't see her later, and she asked again what he was talking about. It was at this moment that he very quickly ran to where he needed to go. The girl looked at him in surprise, and the King of Hearts said that he was damn sexy. The Horse King told the boys to be patient for a little while because it would all be over soon. The monsters didn't understand why he needed a red mask because he didn't even have any friends. All the people watched the monsters in horror at that moment, not knowing how to react to it. The monsters said that it was a disaster. He didn't yet know that they had betrayed him and suggested that he hide. At this point, they turned to the commander of the 5th Corps to find out his opinion on what was happening. He was asked if it was really that difficult, but he told them to shut up and not interfere with the action. He responded sharply to the reproaches, adding that if it was difficult, they should not be born at all. If someone really needs help, let them say so directly and it will be provided immediately. At that moment, the commander calmly came down to them to take the situation under personal control. He said he would not interfere, let them watch, learn, and see how he solves everything instantly. He told them to be patient a little longer, only 5 minutes left, even less, about 3 minutes. Yura confidently said that even a tiny chance was worth the effort. She would definitely hold out for 3 minutes. At this point, someone interrupted her and asked why he had not yet completed his villainy. He demanded that she hand the matter over to him because he knew what to do. Yura indignantly asked him what he was talking about and whether he had accidentally gone crazy out of the blue. She told him to laugh as much as he wanted. If he decided to die, let him do it without a theater. He admitted that this is how it is. He no longer has control over himself and only wants to kill. The subordinates fearfully declared that apparently Satan himself had returned and was now among them again. The guy confidently approached and called the monster a toad, adding that it would be the first opponent. At that moment, the monster said in surprise that this guy was a savage and didn't know who he was dealing with. Just then, he delivered a powerful blow to the monster's stomach, leaving no time for reaction. After the blow, he said that it was time to end this farce and get down to business. Then he thrust the weapon sharply into the ground, as if calling upon something far more terrible. Everyone immediately began to worry about Kevin, shouting and begging him to be careful careful and not take risks. At that moment, the guy just lay motionless, as if he was waiting for something or was simply losing consciousness. The monster contemptuously declared that the guy was a useless dealer with whom they had already dealt completely. At that moment, someone came up to him from behind, and he was incredibly surprised by what was happening. It turned out to be the same guy who was now standing right behind him and silently watching. The monster didn't understand what kind of aura it was. Such an attack was impossible to withstand even under the best conditions. He ordered that this procedure not be repeated because the consequences could be fatal for all involved. Then he hit him again, this time with full force, to make sure he was permanently incapacitated. The monster informed the commander that everything had gone well. After the blow, he was now definitely finished. Kevin laughed loudly and asked what they were talking about, where such strange ideas came from. He screamed that it was an amazing feeling. For the first time, he felt such a powerful dopamine wave inside himself. He admitted that he now had absolutely no control over himself, as if his mind no longer obeyed him. The commander said that he was literally asking for a serious spanking, and that's what he'll get for everything. After these words, he hit him in the face again, not even giving him time to breathe or think. He ordered him to breathe, then grabbed him and threw him far back with force. From such a blow, the guy really flew far away, and it seemed that he would not be able to get up again. However, he stood up and asked the monster if this was all and nothing more would happen. The monster didn't understand what he was getting at. Meanwhile, the guy was confidently walking towards him. Kevin swung sharply, trying to hit him straight in the eyes, but the monster managed to dodge in time. After that, the guy himself began to attack, and so quickly that it was difficult to keep track of him. Yura asked anxiously if this was really all or if he still had some strength left. At that moment, the guy stood on the ground again, preparing to deliver the next decisive blow. The commander said that they were all real parasites and there would be no more forgiveness for them. Kevin continued to laugh and claim that he was the real authority in this place. Yura repeated doubtfully, was that really all, or did he still have one last trump card left? Then absolutely everyone started shouting the same thing at him. Is this really all you can do? For the first time, Kevin was able to dodge the commander's blow, which surprised even the monsters around him. The commander attacked again, but the guy didn't care anymore. He wasn't going to retreat anymore. It was at this moment that he suddenly attacked him in response, catching him off guard and disrupting his rhythm. The commander hit him angrily and added that it was pointless. It wouldn't help anyway. At that moment, the man inside the spaceship smiled widely as he watched what was happening around him. The commander started bleeding and had a hard time realizing that the guy had somehow managed to wound him. He exploded with rage and began to scream and ask how he dared to hit him. Yura immediately realized that this was the same light that turned into stone and told the guy to retreat. It was at this very moment that the commander was suddenly attacked and lost his orientation in space for a second. The guy disappeared from view and a massive jagged hole appeared in the wall behind them. Yura fell to the ground from fatigue and shock, unable to even utter a word. The monster tried to address the commander, but he rudely interrupted him, demanding complete silence and quiet. The guy began to speak, confidently calling on everyone to look carefully at what was happening without missing a single detail. The commander was stunned. He simply could not believe his eyes and refused to accept reality. Malvan stated that Kevin had now grown to the level where he could consciously risk his own life. Everyone watched in amazement as the Horse King appeared, not believing that he had really returned. When they saw him, joy filled everyone present, as if salvation had finally come. At that moment, the Shinsu beast appeared completely changed, as if it had recently evolved. The guy asked how he managed to unite with Ronnie because it seemed completely impossible. Malvan looked at the cat in surprise and said that he had seriously scared him. He added that if his reflexes had been slower, Ronnie would have finished him off long ago. The commander admitted that he did not know how the boy survived but promised to kill him a second time. After these words, he immediately went on the attack without wasting a second on thinking and talking. At that moment, the Horse King ordered him to be quiet and suddenly appeared right behind him. The commander realized with horror that he was finished because he certainly could not have predicted such a turn of events. The Horse King was already ready to strike, decisively raising his weapon and concentrating all his strength. He said it was time to end this madness and put an end to this whole bloody story. At this moment, the commander flew back a considerable distance, unable to withstand the powerful attack. The Horse King called him a goat and added that everything that was happening was a real disgrace. He immediately turned to the other monsters, ordering them to kill the remaining ones without delay. All the monsters responded in unison that they would carry out the order and destroy the enemies without any pity. One of the monsters began to slowly approach the Horse King, preparing to attack. At that moment, the Horse King suddenly knocked his opponent to the ground with one precise move. The guy happily exclaimed that everything worked out perfectly. Now he could relax and enter the password. He entered the password. Yura is his forever, causing a real storm of emotions in the girl. Yura was shocked to the depths of her soul. She did not expect to hear such words from him. At that moment, a strange figure began to materialize as if born from his feelings. It was the personification of his genius and boundless love for Yura embodied in reality. A creature appeared before them. A doll in the image of Yura, whom he called their daughter Jura. Yura was overcome with rage so strong that even the boy was forced to contain it. The guy began to rotate the doll, causing it to activate as if he were starting an unknown combat mechanism. After this, the doll began to shoot in all directions, releasing charge after charge without stopping. He said that this is true passion expressed in the dance of fire and steel. Then there was a powerful explosion, and he exclaimed that this was exactly the way to do it. The commander shouted, asking what he was doing, and promised that he would never forgive him for this. The guy replied that he had had enough and now he would really finish them all off forever. After these words, everyone present on the battlefield instinctively closed their eyes, waiting for the outcome. Shinsu began to act, absorbing the power and forming an energy field around himself. He went through a new stage of evolution, transforming right before everyone's eyes. The girl asked what exactly was going on, and the guy annoyedly replied that Shinsu was stealing his glory. No one understood what Shinsu was doing because his actions looked mysterious and frightening. It turns out that he is charging himself with the energy of a divine beast to activate his hidden potential. Its purpose was to become the master's spiritual weapon by fully materializing its power. It was a powerful fusion, allowing him to display abilities previously unavailable to any fighter. He farts himself, and isn't that surprising since something like this rarely happens in front of everyone around him? It was at this moment that the villainous Noah King began to pull out something strange from somewhere in the depths of space. Everyone present was incredibly shocked when they suddenly saw this strange, incomprehensible object in his hands. No one could understand what this object was or where it came from in this place. Everyone began to wonder if the strange piece really was the legendary spiritual weapon. The commander became furious and shouted that everything that was happening simply did not fit into his understanding. Malvan calmly suggested to the commander that he try it himself if he thought it was that simple. In a rage, the commander promised to finish him off by firing a powerful laser weapon at him. But the Horse King did not lose his composure and prepared for defense in advance, keeping calm within himself. He shouted a bold "Bite me!" and confidently repelled the enemy's attack with the help of this very weapon. Everyone who witnessed this moment instinctively closed their eyes from the blinding flash and powerful energy. The Horse King continued to resist with incredible strength, fighting with all his remaining strength. His skin was slowly turning to stone, but he still didn't stop and fought. Yura, watching what was happening, screamed, realizing what all this was really leading to. The Horse King, despite the pain, smiled and said that he had almost succeeded. At that crucial moment, there was a bright flash that tore through the darkness and illuminated everything around them. The stone shell began to crack all over the surface of the body, accompanied by a deafening crack and light. The commander was in complete shock from what he saw and could hardly believe his own eyes at that moment. As soon as this happened, a powerful earthquake began upsetting the balance of the entire area around the battlefield. An unexpected beam of energy suddenly swept across the entire planet, engulfing it in its powerful shining pulse. The commander froze in surprise, not believing in the reality of what was happening around him now. The Horse King was already in the air, preparing to deliver the final blow straight at his opponent. The commander, gritting his teeth, watched him and tried to calculate the next step of this furious attack. The same guy's underwear suddenly appeared right in front of his face, causing surprise and embarrassment. At that moment, the commander suddenly realized that what he saw was amazingly beautiful. The guy's underwear was getting closer and closer to his face, as if emphasizing the absurdity of the situation. The commander suddenly realized that he too would like to have the same incredible underpants as his. The Horse King screamed with all his might, gathering all his power for a decisive blow to the enemy. He then delivered a crushing blow to the commander in fury, sending him flying a great distance away. All this time, other no less important events were taking place on board the spaceship. One man and the mysterious creature sat quietly watching what was happening. The man confidently said that all this seemed familiar to him, but he couldn't understand why. The King of Hearts anxiously tried to determine the nature of the vibrations that were felt on board. The girl immediately recognized this strange feeling, remembering the moment when everything was just beginning. She realized that it was Malvan, in whom she had believed from the very beginning of events. She was sure that he would definitely win because there simply could not be any other outcome. At that very moment, fierce battles continued on the battlefield, filling the air with tension. The commander, exhausted, lay on the ground with a slight smile on his face, as if realizing his fate. The Horse King, looking at him, asked with a smile how he could possibly like such a thing. He then turned to everyone, asking if they had really proved too much for him in the end. The being on board the spaceship watched him closely, trying to understand everything. The Horse King challenged Hikikomori to come down and prove his strength. At that moment, Hikikomori began to slowly descend towards them without saying a word in response. He looked straight at the Horse King with concentration, assessing his strength and fighting qualities. The man asked if the captain of the 5th Corps was really wounded, and it was immediately confirmed. He wondered what had gone wrong, as this planet was very different from the previous ones he had captured. To survive, the population apparently evolved to cope with the constant dangerous conditions. He admitted that he did not know the exact reason. Perhaps it was worth launching a full investigation into what was happening. Even if an insect evolves, it is still an insect, just a little stronger, nothing more. Was there really no logic to everything that was happening? This question had been tormenting him from the very beginning. Some small bug suddenly turned out to be stronger than the commander of the 7th Corps himself, causing shock. At this moment, the commander thought about his words, trying to understand their true meaning and intention. He said it was some kind of weird nonsense, or he suddenly felt compassion for these people. The commander asked what the word compassion meant because he had never heard it before. As he himself said, it was difficult for him to comprehend and understand the meaning of this new word. He couldn't believe that this was even possible in real life and in this cruel world. At that moment, something began to happen near him, causing everyone present to become wary. Only strong determination and will can break even the strongest and most blood ties between people. He now had his father's blood on his hands, and he thought how cruel and unfair it was. Despite everything, he continued to believe in his strength and hope for victory. At that moment, the commander arrived to them, preparing for the decisive battle and fight. The Horse King said that everything was clear and understandable to him. He was ready to show his power. He then added that the situation was just awful for him, but he was not going to give up. The commander replied that all this did not change anything, and he would continue to carry out his task. He planted his feet very firmly on the ground to maintain stability and not fall. After this, the environment changed dramatically, causing alarm among everyone present. Everyone was unbearably scared just by the commander's gaze and his terrifying aura. The commander began to slowly approach them, preparing to deliver the fatal blow at the right moment. He then hit the ground with all his might, causing a strong vibration, shaking the ground beneath his feet. A very strong pressure fell on all those present, which became almost unbearable for them. He continued to approach them, showing no sign of fatigue or weakness in his movements. Yura was also very scared and understood the seriousness and danger of what was happening. None of them could move, as if paralyzed by the strength and terrifying appearance of the commander. Despite this, the commander did not stop and slowly continued to advance on his opponents. He said that there was nothing interesting in the trash and there was no point in wasting time on trifles. At this moment, the monsters behind the commander were also very scared, but he noticed them. They began to ask the commander for forgiveness, realizing that they could no longer escape punishment. In a split second, he killed them with one swift movement, leaving them without a chance of salvation. Everyone was surprised at how easily and quickly the commander was able to deal with even several enemies. Kivin looked at the guy next to him and realized that his body had completely stopped obeying him. He realized that this was the end and there was practically no hope left for salvation in their situation. Only the Horse King could move, and at that moment he was ready to fight the commander. After this, a powerful explosion occurred which shook the entire surrounding area and all participants in the battle. But the commander simply looked at him, showing no fear or even surprise in his eyes. Apparently, the Horse King was already exhausted to the limit and could not continue fighting any further. His weapon fell to the ground when he lost all his strength and was tired of fighting the enemy. As it turned out, at that moment, he grabbed the enemy's hands, trying to keep the situation under control. The commander asked if that was really all he could do, trying to get him to respond. He said that he should answer if he valued his own life and wanted to survive. He noted that their capabilities went beyond human limits, and no one knows why this happened. The Horse King laughed and said that that was exactly what he wanted to know because it was interesting. He kneed the commander in the face and said it was worth exactly 501. After that, he noticed something strange happening around them at that moment. The commander grabbed him by the knee and said that he had already given him a chance, but he had not used it. He then threw him to the ground, leaving his opponent no chance of escape. The commander began to approach him again, intending to deliver another possibly fatal blow. At that moment, another powerful explosion occurred, which plunged everyone into shock and panic. The Horse King began to bleed from his mouth, indicating severe internal trauma and pain. The commander continued to approach, not paying attention to the enemy's condition and suffering. Yura began to scream, realizing that everything was developing in the most dangerous and catastrophic direction. The commander said that of course he was sorry, but he would not retreat and would fight to the end. He was preparing a powerful attack that could kill the Horse King without any problem. Then the commander informed everyone that the long-awaited and terrible hour of reckoning for the enemies had arrived. He was fully prepared to attack the Horse King without thinking about the consequences of the fight. The Horse King didn't understand anything and didn't know what to do, judging by his face. At that very moment, there was suddenly a sharp and blinding flash of light around them. Just at that moment, the commander directed a powerful attack straight at the guy who was not expecting it. The commander was very surprised by what was happening and could not believe his eyes. As it turned out, the Horse King began to defend himself and actively defend himself despite the danger. He said that the main character will always be able to rise from the ashes and continue the fight. Will rise from the ashes and become even stronger than he was before the battle. The monsters did not understand what was happening and could not comprehend the changes that were taking place. He noticed that the Horse King's aura had changed significantly and had become much stronger. At that moment, a tiger actually appeared, similar to the one depicted right on his shorts. The tiger slowly approached the monster, preparing to engage in combat without delay. The commander was very surprised to see this, not expecting such an unexpected scene. Just at that moment, the Horse King assumed a fighting stance, preparing to attack. Naturally, the guy tried his best to use his full potential at that moment. The Horse King planted his feet on the floor to push off with force and start moving. He slid across the ground, leaving behind a deep mark on the hard surface. The commander took to the air at that moment, preparing for a new attack from above. The girl apologized for being late, explaining that she was delayed due to unforeseen circumstances. The Horse King said that she was too slow and needed to act faster without delay. He then called her a beauty and a real superhero, bringing a smile to her face. The King of Hearts asked if it was really him who beat his man, not believing his eyes. Someone asked if they called for background music for such a dramatic moment in the fight. At that moment, a truck literally landed next to them, suddenly appearing out of nowhere. It was actually the Horse King's group that arrived to help at the most necessary moment. Nobody wanted to be left behind by such a large-scale and exciting movement around. Everyone present was very surprised by what was happening and could not believe their eyes. The girl began to ask what kind of trip to hell this was without proper accompaniment and protection. Yura immediately recognized this voice, which was very familiar to her since childhood. Could it really be his little sister who appeared at the most unexpected moment? It was a group that had gathered in a new composition to continue the fight and support the king. The Horse King asked what exactly he was asking there, trying to understand the meaning of the interlocutor's words. I think was asking how he managed to acquire the ability and was going to give the answer to the skull. No matter how tired he is and no matter how hard it is, he still doesn't intend to give up. His sense of justice has not disappeared, although many do not even know anything about it. In his soul he had hope and a sense of guilt for past mistakes and actions. He also felt support that helped him not to give up in difficult moments. And all this in general formed the basis of his inner strength and spirit. It was all nonsense. They only needed visibility and the attention of others, because they were all show-offs trying to look better than they really were. The commander looked at him and said that this is what real strength and perseverance means. The Horse King said they had not received the attention and support they deserved before. The boy looked at the commander and smiled, knowing that victory was already close and inevitable. How he managed to gain this ability, he was going to hammer the answers into the enemy's skull carefully. No matter how tired he was and no matter how hard it was, he could not give in and surrender in battle. Have they heard of feelings of justice? No, of course no one knows anything about them. Perhaps it was all about hope that kept him going during the most difficult times. Or maybe it was the feeling of guilt that tormented his soul in the most difficult moments. Or perhaps it was the support he received from his family and friends that explained it all. It was all nonsense. They only needed fame and the attention of the people around them. All this was empty noise because they needed only the attention of others. It all happened this way because they were real show-offs striving for fame. The commander said that this is what real strength and determination means at a critical moment. The Horse King said that they finally got the attention and respect they deserved. By the way, he was wondering how long the guy was going to just hang there without doing anything. Everything was right. Let them not be afraid and boldly come down here to fight with them. The guy didn't understand they really were idiots since they allowed themselves to be spoken about seriously like that. At that moment, the commander dropped down and headed straight towards them with determination. He looked straight at them as if he was ready to break them all with one glance. The guy started to get nervous because he realized that the commander had really come down and was walking towards them. What a real man! He was ready to fight until his last breath. This new cosmic scent affected him. He could no longer restrain himself and endure it. He expressed his gratitude through love, but the commander was stern at that moment. Naturally, the King of Hearts flew very far away, barely able to stay on his feet from the blow. The girl began to worry about him, seeing how badly he was hurt in the battle. The commander said that the land meant a lot, and the longer he was here, the more interesting it became. He wondered whether the local life forms remained positive even in the face of horror. He was even curious whether they would continue to smile if their bones or muscles were broken. He tore the muscles so that they trembled with unbearable and piercing pain. As I thought he got angry, it was his transformation due to the provocations of his opponents. Yura said that they had nothing to fear because there was nothing to fear in the tiger's cave. At that moment, they saw his mouth full of sharp and terrible fangs. The commander actually turned into another monster, possessing the ability to transform into any creature. Yura noted that it was an abyss of fangs, terrifying and inspiring fear in everyone. The commander said he wanted to see their frightened faces when they begged for mercy. At that moment, he attacked the Horse King, who did not even have time to do anything. After this, there was an explosion which turned out to be quite unexpected and powerful. It was really unexpected. No one expected such a rapid turn of events. The cowardly guy tried to come from behind, thinking that the hit would hurt more. There was no respite with him. He didn't even bother to get dressed. He immediately rushed into battle. The Horse King said that the main thing is that the content is truly cool and spectacular. The commander simply smiled at that moment, showing confidence and calm before the battle. The Horse King used a kettlebell strike, delivering a powerful and accurate blow to his opponent. He then used side plank rows to increase strength and stability. This was followed by a side lunge capable of crushing the skull of any opponent. He fought the monster so well that everyone wondered if he had always been at that level. The Horse King tried his best, reaching his maximum and limit of capabilities. These are the vile receivers who are trying with all their might to interfere with the real battle and justice. Some man with a mustache started shouting and asking what they were doing there. Their youngest began to have problems, and this required immediate intervention and help. Don't they see this whole situation happening right before their eyes? After all, they trained together so much, acquiring a lot of skills and combat experience. Physical strength is the backbone of the nation. The gym director will not forgive them for breaking the rules. Yura said that things were getting worse by the hour and the situation was becoming more and more tense. He shouted at them to do something because not everyone was safe yet. At that moment, the guy started to stop them, trying to keep them from panicking. The managers asked what he was doing because the youngest was in serious danger. He said they would not be able to help because it was a personal battle of honor for him. This time he was determined not to give in. The Horse King looked at him carefully. He expressed confidence in his victory and called on people to believe in it. The girl agreed with the manager, claiming that the Horse King could handle it on his own. She stressed that the main thing is not to give up in order to overcome difficulties and grow as a person. Everyone thought about the words that overcoming and growing is the key to development, like the sister of the Horse King with an amazing mind. They decided to support and believe in the Horse King in all trials. The Horse King began to reproach the others for their slowness, declaring that he himself would soon die and that they should stop asking for help. His harsh words caused great surprise among all those present who did not expect such words from him. Soon everyone went into battle fully prepared to fight and defend their positions from the enemy. The supporting characters, despite having little screen time, delivered a powerful punch, surprising everyone around them. The commander was indifferent to their attacks. He remained calm and confident in his victory. With one move, he destroyed all his opponents, demonstrating incredible strength and skill in combat. He called on everyone not to be lazy and to make more efforts to achieve high results in battle. At that moment, the director received a strong blow to the face, which instantly stunned him and knocked him out of action. The guy used a destructive tango, significantly increasing his attack and inflicting serious damage on the enemy. He then quickly attacked the commander, not giving him a single chance to defend himself. The commander began to actively defend himself, repelling enemy attacks and trying to maintain control over the situation. The boy watched the commander carefully, fully focused on the battle and carefully analyzing his movements. He could not believe what was happening, as he believed that such events were impossible in real life. Despite this, the commander continued the offensive, not giving the enemy a minute of respite or rest. He looked straight at the monster in front of him, fully focused on the fighting and his strategy. Suddenly, a powerful explosion occurred on the battlefield, which shocked everyone and changed the course of the battle. After some time, the guy opened his eyes, trying to understand what exactly happened around him at that moment. He realized that the man in front of him was unusual and possessed a strength beyond all expectations. The King of Hearts noted that such a child is not to his taste and evokes mixed feelings in him. Nevertheless, he decided to help despite all the doubts and internal contradictions he had. He did not strive to be properly understood by others, realizing that his complex character was difficult to explain. After the kiss, everyone around turned away, amazed and stunned by the action that was taking place, not expecting this. Even the commander was deeply surprised by what he saw, as something like this rarely happened on the battlefield. At this point, significant changes began to occur with the guy, which were supposed to change the course of events. His muscles began to develop rapidly, becoming much larger and stronger in a very short time. He had the ability of an A-rank hero, the King of Hearts, who could enhance his physical strength through a kiss. At that moment, he was fully prepared to engage in combat with the commander without any fear or doubt. First, he used the first type of heart flow, channeling the energy into a powerful and precise attack. After this, he began to gradually approach the enemy without losing concentration and self-confidence. The commander was puzzled and wondered if he was absorbing the energy of the males to strengthen himself. The King of Hearts then used the second type of heart stream to deliver a more powerful blow. The result was a heart-shaped explosion that engulfed the entire battlefield and struck enemies. The commander admitted that it was a worthy blow, capable of changing the course of the battle in his favor. Despite this, the girl easily dealt with the commander, demonstrating her skill and strength. The commander then retreated, jumping back to rethink the situation and make a plan. The King of Hearts noted that the fight was very hot and intense, forcing all participants to give their all. At that moment, the very same van arrived on the field, which attracted the attention of everyone present around. He stopped right next to the commander, creating additional tension and pressure on the enemy. Someone present asked whether the commander was confident in his strength and abilities on the field. They asked if they would test the strength of his eardrums with their sounds and rhythms. A heart-pounding beat began to play around, and everyone began to dance with unbridled energy. At that moment, an unexpected and incomprehensible attack fell upon the commander, catching him off guard. The commander himself could not understand what exactly was happening and with what force the enemies attacked him. He then stepped back sharply, trying to maintain control and survey his surroundings. The King of Hearts suddenly grabbed the commander, demanding to know where he was going to run now. At this time, the attack was rapidly approaching, creating a serious threat to the commander's life. A powerful explosion soon followed, which stunned everyone and significantly changed the course of the fighting. The guy couldn't believe that it was all over, but the girl calmed him down, urging him to stay calm. Despite the explosion, the commander remained alive and made terrifying growls, demonstrating his strength and fury. His growls scared everyone around him, confirming that he was not going to give up and was ready to continue the fight. After this, the commander began to laugh loudly, expressing his confidence and superiority over the opponents around him. The Horse King also laughed loudly, sharing this moment of intense rivalry and struggle with the commander. Then both opponents suddenly fell silent and looked at each other carefully, as if assessing the strength of their opponent. The girl supported the Horse King, helping him to rise and continue the fight despite his fatigue and wounds. The commander looked intently at the girl, and she in turn did not take her eyes off him, feeling the tension of the moment. He tried to understand why everything was happening so strangely to her and what was behind these events around her. The commander remembered himself as a child when he asked questions about the meaning of what was happening and the reasons for life's trials. Then he turned to his brother, trying to understand what exactly all this chaos and suffering around meant. That familiar deep look in the girl's eyes reminded him of those childhood experiences and vague doubts. After this, the commander fell silent, immersed in his thoughts and inner doubts, trying to comprehend what was happening. He began to slowly transform back into his former form, leaving behind a shadow of his former fury and strength. Everyone around was amazed and surprised as the commander returned to his original essence, changing his terrifying appearance. The commander silently looked at those present, showing neither joy nor regret, waiting for further action. He asked if time was up, reminding him that one individual had already died in his arms. It was believed that God sends only those tests that people are able to withstand without defeat. Nobody knew, but there was still hope that the heroes would not give up and would be able to withstand the trials. Then they will have the opportunity to meet again and continue their fight with each other. For reference, it is worth noting that many important and significant events took place during this period. However, the commander did not believe in God and considered all such ideas to be complete and stupid nonsense. At that moment, a huge meteorite was rapidly flying towards the Earth, threatening all the inhabitants of the planet. Breaking news reported that a meteorite was heading straight for the center of Seoul, causing strong electromagnetic vibrations. In this regard, the question arose as to whether the sudden retreat of the monsters was connected with the approach of the meteorite. Residents of the area close to the suspected impact site were advised to evacuate to safe locations immediately. Loudspeakers were used to repeat to all residents of the dangerous area that they should immediately leave the area and find shelter. The Hero Association said it was time to take action and leave the danger zone as soon as possible. The meteorite was already at a minimum distance from the Earth, creating a huge threat to the entire city. The commander said they were ready to use all their might to counter the impending danger. He told his boss that he was returning to them despite the problems and difficult circumstances that had arisen. The commander noted that he was delayed and asked if he had any important instructions or new orders. He also reported that measures to destroy them had been taken, but that all the enemies had not yet been completely destroyed. Immediately after this, the commander killed another monster, demonstrating his strength and superiority in battle. The second monster nearby was very scared and silent, realizing that a threat was approaching them all. The boss ordered to act faster, reminding that they had already lost the commander of the 5th Corps and the responsibility lay with the 7th. The monsters were ordered to move out immediately without wasting a second, as the situation was becoming critical. The commander realized that a failure had occurred and that urgent measures had to be taken to correct the situation. He asked to wait a little, assuring that soon everything would change for the better and new chances would appear. The meteorite had almost reached the surface of the Earth and everyone had very little time to react. One of the monsters turned out to be alive and was surprised that the others left them without any protection or help. They called their commander for help, hoping that he could save them in a critical situation. The boy couldn't understand whether these creatures were their real bodies or just an illusion. The manager said that this time the monsters would really die, but Yura screamed, demanding that he not speak so calmly. The guy asked what "they will die" meant, not believing the words and forgetting that a S-Rank hero was fighting them. At that moment he fired a missile salvo, but the meteorite was completely indifferent and had no effect. The missiles did not cause any damage to the meteorite, which caused confusion among those present and a feeling of hopelessness. The manager repeated again that this was the end, and then the girl furiously ordered him to shut up and not create panic. The Horse King said he had an important message and asked if they would listen to it carefully. The girl looked at him in surprise, not expecting to hear anything serious and important from him at such a moment. The guy tried to explain himself, saying that he wanted to apologize for his past mistakes and misunderstandings. The others did not understand why these confessions were necessary and why he was escalating the tension since the situation was already dire. He admitted that it was too late and took the blame for what happened to Dave on himself because of his stubbornness and selfishness. Without regard for others, he rushed forward, acting recklessly and leading to serious trouble and danger. He tried to appear as an alpha male, hiding behind this facade his cowardly and weak nature inside. Laughter and boasting turned out to be only a mask for deception. He was a liar and a deceiver, hiding behind lies and show. The girl objected that this was not true and that her changes were due to his support and confidence in her. Because of this, he turned to them with a request, hoping for understanding and support in the current situation. At this moment, he smiled, demonstrating confidence and readiness for the upcoming fight with the meteorite. He said that there would be no more lies, everything would become reality, and he would turn into a real crazy show-off. The Horse King turned to Yura, calling on her to support and help in the current situation without delay. Yura answered with confidence that this was indeed their Malvan, and she was completely ready to take part in the battle. After this, the girl began to create something that resembled a trampoline to use as a weapon or defense. The trampoline that was being created looked very realistic. Its structure and shape surprised everyone around. The Horse King positioned himself in the center of the trampoline, preparing to demonstrate a new tactic against the meteorite. He began to stretch the trampoline, preparing it for the upcoming use with maximum force and precision. He then fired towards the meteorite, directing the full force of the attack straight at the target without hesitation. The projectile flew straight towards the meteorite, creating a tense atmosphere in anticipation of the impact. The Horse King intended to show everyone what happens to those who dare to take on such challenges. He predicted that the opponents would scream louder and go crazy from the power and destruction that awaited them. There were sounds in the air that suggested the approach of death and inevitable destruction for the enemies. The Horse King noted that everything was going well, and he continued to move forward without fear or doubt. The guy admired the madness of what was happening and said that let the opponents do what they want, it was wonderful. The Horse King did not stop and steadily approached the meteorite, demonstrating determination and power. The healer girl decided to support the king and said that he should show them all his strength. At that moment, she cast her power on him, enhancing his abilities and endurance in battle. The Horse King continued to move forward, quickly closing the distance between himself and the meteorite. His speed amazed everyone. He moved quickly, as if at the limit of his capabilities and strength. He said the situation was no longer a joke, and now it was time for serious action and decisive blows. The boy and his subordinates encouraged the king, saying that he must break this meteorite at any cost. Everyone was screaming at him to smash that damn meteorite, hoping for victory and salvation from the impending threat. Suddenly, a very bright flash appeared, blinding and making everyone hold their breath in anticipation of the result. The flash was followed by a powerful explosion which shocked everyone present with its destructive effect. Despite the explosion, the meteorite continued its movement, causing everyone to be surprised and afraid of the imminent catastrophe. Those present believed that this was impossible and that they were doomed to failure with no hope of salvation or success. The healer girl watched what was happening, trying to stay calm and find a way to help in a difficult situation. Soon there was another powerful explosion which shook everyone and increased the tension in the surrounding atmosphere. At this point, it became clear that the Horse King was literally holding the meteorite back, trying to prevent a catastrophe. He warned that it was too early to rejoice and the situation was far from over and the danger still remained. Blood began to come out of his mouth, indicating serious damage and great effort. Following this, the building began to collapse, unable to withstand the loads and vibrations from the collision and explosions. The meteorite seemed to have landed and buildings around it continued to collapse, causing panic and chaos. The girl looked at the floor, unable to understand whether Malvan was alive and what condition he was in now. She was confused and could not understand what was happening and where her comrade was at that moment. Suddenly her gaze went up full of surprise and anxiety, expecting to see something important. She saw a huge meteorite lying motionless on the ground after a long fall from the sky. The Horse King tried his best to hold back the meteorite, preventing it from destroying everything around him. The girl extended her hand, promising that she would now help and support the Horse King in the fight. At that moment her arm suddenly broke, as if under the influence of an invisible and strong force. She realized that now she could no longer help and had to leave all responsibility to him alone. The Horse King said that the girl was inactive and just sat there doing nothing in the face of danger. At that moment Yura was nearby, closely watching what was happening and ready to intervene. The Horse King declared that he could handle the meteorite on his own and ordered everyone to leave immediately. The girl objected that now was not the time to show off and it was important to maintain unity and calm. He asked if she believed in him and his strength, proud of her determination and inner strength. She replied that she couldn't just sit and watch him sacrifice himself alone for them. At that moment, the guy managed to save them both, showing incredible determination and courage in battle. Yura demanded that the guy be released, saying that help was needed and empty talk was only getting in the way. Despite this, the girl could not completely let go of the guy, still worrying about his fate. The Horse King, on the other hand, was smiling, feeling joy and confidence in the event taking place around them. Everyone started running quickly, trying to leave the dangerous place to save their own lives and safety. He understood that if he could endure it, he could save everyone and fulfill his mission for the sake of their future. In apologizing to Ji-hyun, he asked for forgiveness for the danger he had put those around him with his actions. The Horse King continued to hold the meteorite despite his enormous fatigue and the gravity of the situation around him. He then shouted loudly, calling on everyone to cheer up and not give up in this difficult moment. At that very moment, his gaze became significantly clearer, more focused, and filled with determination. The Horse King planted his feet firmly on the floor, trying to maintain his balance and hold onto the meteorite. He wondered why everyone was so worried about a simple stone without seeing the bigger picture. It seemed that everyone around had completely lost faith in themselves and their strength, as if they had lost hope. Despite all the difficulties, he continued to hold the meteorite, not allowing it to fall and destroy everything. His behavior was an example of a true alpha male who is not afraid to take responsibility. Everyone around was very surprised that it was the leader who personally came to them at that moment. The guy couldn't understand how this was even possible and what kind of power allowed him to survive. Perhaps the curse was lifted when the green entity died, although that seemed unlikely. It appeared after being put together piece by piece, and everyone around was surprised. He will continue to complain and whine for a long time, but it is not worth saying that everything has gotten worse in his absence. I wonder if he'll come to his senses if someone slaps him, or if everything will stay the same. The Horse King smiled and was genuinely happy that he finally heard the voice of his comrade. He said that he had a request and now it was important to fulfill it for the sake of common success. He took a deep breath, gathering his strength for the important and difficult action ahead. The bar had to be gripped firmly, slightly wider than shoulder width, holding it exactly at the 11 o'clock position. It was necessary to tense the body without bending the lower back in order to maintain a correct and safe posture. Slowly move your buttocks back, keeping your thighs parallel to the floor in a stable position. In this case, the knees should not go beyond the toes. The entire movement should be precise and controlled. The Horse King took another deep, heavy breath, preparing for the final effort. He confidently stated that he was fully prepared to carry out the assigned task without any doubts. He then instructed the guy to squeeze his muscles to increase strength and stability during the lift. The Horse King was putting in his utmost effort, trying his best at this critical moment. The guy started to get the hang of it. His movements became more and more precise and confident. Dave noted that this is exactly the approach and key that is needed for success. At this point, traces of blood could be seen appearing from tension and effort. Dave was clearly frightened by what was happening, his expression reflecting the seriousness of the situation. No one could understand what exactly was happening to the guy. Everything seemed unpredictable and strange. Dave advised not to waste energy in vain, but rather to pull ourselves together and focus on the main thing. Everyone around him was watching him closely, waiting for the result and supporting him morally. The guy said that there was a mistake and he needed help. Yura was trembling, not understanding what they should do, but she wanted to help very much. The young man explained that she needed to rest because in this state she would not be able to help. She couldn't just sit around doing nothing when he was working so hard for both of them. At that very moment something unusual began to happen to her. No one around could understand what exactly was happening in this situation. Apparently old memories came flooding back. She wondered if she would live in fear forever. However, she has recently gained real power. She only asked once to make it work. At that moment, the building began to crack at the seams. The young man asked her to wait, warning her of the mortal danger due to the collapse of the building. The ground beneath the horse ship was indeed crumbling, but she was determined to save it. At that moment, the building completely collapsed, but she used her strength to hold it and save it. The girl began to assemble the building piece by piece, carefully restoring each destroyed detail. The young man could not understand how such a phenomenon could be possible in reality. The Horse King continued to hold the meteorite with incredible strength and did not give up. The destroyed building was restored instantly, as if time had started moving backwards for it. The word evolution was heard in the Hero Association, which meant a new stage in the development of events. They assumed that what was happening was related to the changes and powerful abilities of the healer. The healer's ability was to heal wounds, but her true power lay elsewhere. The girl's real power was the ability to turn back time, changing the past. She extended her hand forward, ready to use her power for protection and support. The girl promised to back the guy up so that he could continue fighting without fear. The Horse King grabbed the barbell with a death grip, demonstrating his unyielding strength and will. At that moment, a heavy barbell actually began to appear in front of them out of nowhere. A tango suddenly appeared right above the guy, adding tension and mysticism to what was happening. He asked her who had asked for help, since the weight of the barbell could only increase the load. At that moment, someone spoke from below, attracting the attention of everyone around. The Horse King instantly realized that it was his descendant speaking to them. Dave couldn't understand how all this could be true. It seemed to him just a story or a legend that no one believed. The guy also couldn't believe his own eyes, because it was a truly legendary moment. Everyone present understood that their ancestors were standing before them, and this was significant. The manager asked if this was really it, because it seemed like it simply couldn't be. There is a legend in the world of bodybuilders. Only those who have trained their muscles 1,000,000 times without injury can become gods. It also meant that he maintained his innocence and remained a virgin, which was important. Malvan naturally came up and told the manager to shut his mouth, otherwise he would not be held accountable for his words. The ancestor told the boy to control his breathing and focus on what was happening around him. He began to tell him not to spare his efforts and to be prepared for difficulties. At this time, a drone was flying next to them, carefully observing the situation. He was watching his ancestor, recording all his actions and movements. The news reported that something incredible, something out of the ordinary, was being observed. An elderly man who appeared out of nowhere covered the meteorite with his body, protecting everyone around him. What they saw may have seemed crazy, but what was happening was absolutely real. The muscular old man became the savior of their planet at the most critical moment. Yura started screaming, demanding that the boulder be lifted, because she would not tolerate those who gave up halfway. Everyone started to support him and assure him that he would cope with the task and win. Every single person present supported him without exception, showing unity and faith in success. The Horse King realized the full responsibility on his shoulders and did his utmost to win. The support from everyone never stopped, giving him confidence and strength. The Horse King gradually shifted the weight, demonstrating tenacity and fortitude. At this moment, his muscles were filled with incredible strength, and Jiha was helping him. Soon there was a bright flash all around, illuminating the entire space with powerful light. The flash was followed by a powerful explosion that shook everyone nearby. Those who witnessed the event could not hold back their tears, shocked by what was happening. The group was genuinely happy about his success and shared his emotions. Dave looked at him with a smile, approving of the result achieved. Jai-Hai cried from pride and touching feelings looking at him. The Horse King was able to overcome the meteorite thanks to his incredible strength and endurance. At the sight of the victory, a golden statue of the ancestor appeared, symbolizing honor and memory. Some people hurried with treats in their teeth, trying to lift the spirits of those around them. The guy felt rushed, feeling that he was late for an important event. It was getting on with the meal, and he was complaining about the constant buns with stickers on the menu. Suddenly, he twisted his ankle and fell, which complicated the situation. The fall caused all the food to spill across the floor, causing disappointment. He began to worry, realizing that everything was not going according to plan. Suddenly, Shisa appeared in front of him, causing a feeling of tenderness. He noted her prettiness, then hurried away. The situation was becoming critical, and everyone realized it. Besides the bullies, even the cats avoided him as if he was cursed. He looked into the rocking chair, trying to find out if the cat had appeared there. The attention of everyone present immediately switched to him because of the unusual question. No one understood what kind of cat was being discussed in this situation. He decided to walk away and apologized for his behavior. Someone questioned the seriousness of what was happening, asking about the mockery. Suddenly, the meteorite was stopped by an unknown person, causing surprise and admiration. In a rage, he tore his clothes, trying to protect everyone, even breaking his phone. The irritation could lead to the destruction of the planet if he did not calm down. The guy repeatedly apologized to everyone for what happened. Dave and the Horse King watched his reaction and behavior closely. He admitted his mistake and asked for mercy, hoping for understanding. At that moment, the two of them were watching him closely, assessing the situation. The Horse King saw in it a reflection of his own youth and inexperience. The guy looked at him silently, unable to find the words to answer. Dave asked him where he was going and what he planned to do. He admitted that he did not understand what was happening to him and why. The guy began to listen carefully to the advice, trying to understand his feelings. He was asked if he ever thought about training and body development. He was advised not to be afraid to ask for help and to look at his hands. He was grabbed and told that training would begin immediately without excuses. It was recommended to keep your head level and tighten your stomach for proper technique. They indicated that the back should be straight and the lower back should not bend during the exercises. The wrists had to be held tightly, otherwise the hands could get tired or injured. Between sets, there was a short break to recuperate. Despite being tired and late, he continued training, doing 2 more approaches. The Horse King asked him if he had sweated well, as it was the first time in a long time. Just let him look around carefully. A healthy body always contains a strong spirit, which helps to overcome any difficulties and trials in life. As the weight of the body increases, the spirit becomes strong and one with the physical strength. Then any obstacles and difficulties cease to seem insurmountable and become quite accessible to overcome. He was intrigued by the words that promised to make him much stronger and more resilient in the future. He asked if he could really get stronger while admitting he was overweight. The Horse King extended his hand and told them not to doubt, but simply to trust and repeat after him. The membership costs about 100,000 won per month, but it has been discounted to 1.3 million won per year. The boy looked at him carefully, weighing the risks and realizing how great the test ahead was. He said that he was ready to take risks and make every effort to achieve his goal. At that moment, someone nearby was photographing another person, recording important details of what was happening around. It later turned out that the photographers were Kiven's subordinates who were watching the situation with interest. The commander of the 7th Corps carefully watched what was happening, assessing the actions and behavior of all participants. He stood with a smile on his face, calmly observing all the events happening around him. At that moment, he found himself in the midst of many bodies that lay around him without signs of life. The boss also kept a close eye on the situation, assessing each participant and the overall development of events. A satisfied smile lit up his face, indicating that everything was going according to his plan. He quietly said that this was exactly the moment he had been waiting for.